Infinite projection room begins with the projection of Ultron's world destruction. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351. Classic scene. Long, what have you protected? The King of Ultra has been watching all this happen, but why didn't he save our bow and Hunter Knight sword? Because the king will not take action easily. As the person involved, Hikari was more open-minded about this. The king is the last barrier of the entire multiverse. If he needs to take action, it must be a major event of the universe. Obviously, our bow is not enough. Ace, you can understand the king as the Ultraman among Ultramen. We Ultra Warriors only help after you humans have tried our best. If the king needs to take action for everything that happens in the entire universe, then does the life of the universe still need to work hard? Is there still a need to work hard? Guang, the king is a guardian, but not a nanny for all things in the universe. Only when there is a crisis that we absolutely cannot resist will the king help, and this also has a premise, that is, we have tried our best. The Kingdom of Light. Tarikia looked normal, and the other Ultraman couldn't even see that Tarikia's heart was already like a storm at this moment. So sometimes it is really hard to hide yourself too well and still hope that others will understand you. Tregia tried hard to suppress the fear in his heart. He was eager to hope that Hikari on the screen could get rid of the state of Hunter Knight sword. The video continues. Hunter Knight sword traveled through the universe and finally came to the Earth. He looked at this blue planet and secretly made up his mind to find Boggaru here and kill him. He must succeed in revenge. The breath of the monster. His eyes looked down through the atmosphere, just like a high-powered telescope. The scenery on the Earth quickly became larger and clearer. This is also one of his abilities. He can see far away. Then he saw that there was indeed a monster there, but it was being chased by humans driving fighter jets. But it was more like trying to provoke the other party than chasing. The fighter jet was no match for the monster. Not only did it fail to injure the monster, but it was damaged by the monster's attack. In the end, the pilot actually drove the fighter jet directly towards the monster, intending to die with the monster. You are so brave. Hunter Knight sword thought so, and flew towards the direction of the explosion. Captain Kazuya Serizawa, who was flying a fighter plane to die with the monster, was ejected from the fighter plane at the last moment of the huge explosion. At this moment, Hunter Knight sword appeared in time and saved Kazuya Serizawa. Captain Serizawa still had his own consciousness at this time, but Hunter Knight sword was now full of revenge and did not care about his consciousness at all. He directly suppressed Captain Serizawa's consciousness and forcibly occupied his body. Captain, how can I explain it to everyone when I go back? After Long landed safely on the ground, he ran to the place where the explosion occurred. At this time, there were only some wreckage of the plane on the ground, and there was no trace of Captain Serizawa. Thinking of the captain's care for him in the past and his life-saving grace this time, the captain used his own life to protect himself. Thinking of this, he was heartbroken. He would rather be the one who just died with the monster instead of his most beloved captain. Long suppressed his sorrow. His most beloved captain had sacrificed himself to stop the monster dinosaur from invading the Earth. Now is definitely not the time to be sad. Long took out the Chiraga gun and attacked dinosaur. The effect was not good, but it was much better than the previous satellite. At this time, a young man in plain clothes met a woman in white in Central Park. Who are you? The young man questioned the woman, and a circular projection appeared behind the woman. In it was Boggaru, who was chased by the sword and came here to eat. The woman smiled strangely at the young man and left. At this moment, the young man didn't have time to care about so much. After helping a group of young people save the rabbits raised by children in the zoo, the young man came to an empty corner. The young man raised his left arm, and a red wristband appeared on the young man's left wrist. Mebius. After 25 years, the silver red giant appeared on the Earth again. Gently landing, Ultraman put his hands on his waist, and the cat-headed giant made the humans on Earth a little stunned for a while. Really? Adults who had seen Ultraman burst into cheers louder than the monster's shouts. Ultraman. Ultraman is back. Look. A father said to his child, "This is the Ultraman that dad said he saw when he was a child. This is Ultra Warrior." Seeing that Tinism wanted to attack, Mebius left and hid behind a building, using the building as a shield to block Tinism's attack, and then found the right opportunity to release his own BGM. What bad intentions could Xiaoming have? Didn't he also fight in the universe for a long time, and didn't react for a while? Mebius jumped behind Tinism, grabbed Tinism's blind spot, and started to read the skill. Mebius Ray. The Mebius Ray with a temperature of 100,000 degrees blew up Tinism, and won the first kill in the battle on Earth. Great. Hero. Thank you Ultraman. Amid the cheers of the humans, Mebius proudly put his hands on his hips. Bakeru. A roar kicked Mebius out of his pride. Mebius turned his head, and saw that it was the young man from Earth, who had been chatting with him before, and now a member of the Earth Defense Force, Ryuehira. What kind of third-rate tactics are you using? Take a good look around. Are you still an Ultraman? You still can't save anything. Ryu knelt down in pain, tears streaming down his face. He blamed himself and said, "You can't save anything." Xiaoming stopped thinking at this moment. I have seen too many Ultramans fighting monsters, and there was cheering after the fight. It is the first time to hear that he was scolded by humans on the spot after the fight. Wonder, what is he doing? He is protecting them, okay. Peter Parker, I think that dragon is scolding himself rather than Mebius. Peter Parker, he is actually blaming himself for not protecting anything, not the city, not his teammates, and even his most beloved Captain Serizawa died in order to save him. Peter Parker, I can understand this feeling. Strange, yes, you are a person with strong empathy. Dragon was hit so hard at that time. He was trying hard to attack the monster, but found that his efforts could not even get the attention of the other party. This gap is very big. When Mebius defeated the monster effortless, Dragon's inner defense line collapsed in an instant. Wonder, but that silver-red giant Mebius and Mr. Hickory look alike. Brothers. I got my first Medal of Honor in my life. Chapter 350 to the sword that descended to Earth. I looked around on questions browser. You guys who watch free content complain that I overstated the word count. The original version didn't complain. You guys who watch free content complain that I overstated the word count. No, you're a bitch, Guang. This is indeed a coincidence. There are so many people who look exactly the same on Earth with a population of 7 billion. Mebius and I look similar. It must be a coincidence of fate. Ace, it is indeed a coincidence. Mebius is now interning in the Space Guard. According to our original arrangement, when Eddie comes back, the next person to be sent to Earth is Mebius. The video continues. The young man Hibino Mirai, who is the incarnation of Mebius, joins the Earth Defense Organization GUZI, and brings in several team members. Next, Mirai's daily life in GUZI begins. Looking at the friendly interaction between Mirai and the team members on the screen, the captain who is like a kind father, the superior who laughs and plays with them all day long, and even the stubborn Donkey Long who is extremely reliable at critical moments. Ace's teeth are about to fall out. I don't accept it. How can the daily life of the defense team be so warm? The video continues. During another operation, Long suddenly saw a figure. After seeing this figure, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Could he have seen it wrong? Is that Captain Serizawa? Didn't he just drive a fighter jet and die with a monster? How come he appeared again? Long couldn't believe what he saw. He rubbed his eyes again, closed his eyes, opened them again, and looked carefully. Yes, it was Captain Serizawa. This time he saw it very clearly, and it was not his hallucination. It was definitely his captain. Captain. Long shouted in surprise, and ran over quickly. He didn't consider why Captain Serizawa was still alive, even though he drove a fighter jet, and died with the monster. Anyway, as long as his beloved Captain Serizawa is still alive, this is the best result. After being possessed, Hunter Knight's sword was observing Bogaru's situation. Suddenly, a human ran over with an excited look on his face. After running over, he immediately hugged him tightly and said, "Captain, that's great. It's great that you didn't die. Get out of here." Captain Serizawa has been replaced by a different person. He is no longer the original Captain Serizawa, but Hunter Knightsword. He directly pushed Long away and looked at him with indifference. If the other party dared to hug him like before, he didn't mind killing him directly. Now Hunter Nightsword has no mercy because his heart is full of hatred. Killing a person is nothing to him. Even as long as Boggaroo can be killed, what's the harm in destroying another planet? Exclamation mark. Seeing the situation of Hunter Nightsword on the screen, Hunter Nightsword said that me, just like what the king said, was blinded by hatred and completely crazy. Peter Hikaru suddenly looked at him and said, although I'm not in the position to say these words now, I still hope you can remember that you must not be blinded by anger and hatred in the future. I'm afraid that Sword has accidentally injured countless lives in the process of chasing Boggaroo. These are the sins committed by Sword. I know, Mr. Hikaru, I know. Peter nodded, but I'm afraid I may not be able to do it. He thought of the man who killed Uncle Ben. If he appeared in front of him again, could he easily forgive him? Obviously, it is absolutely impossible. The video continues. Captain. He was pushed away by Captain Serizawa and told to get out. Even now, the other party's eyes were abnormally cold. This was completely different from Captain Serizawa, who cared about him very much before. If he was not exactly the same as Captain Serizawa, then he would even doubt whether the person in front of him was the captain. He suddenly remembered the explosion and said, Captain, did you lose your memory temporarily because of the explosion and your head was hit? This is a very possible reason that Long thought of, otherwise, Captain Serizawa would not be so indifferent to him. Hunter Night Giant still looked at the man in front of him indifferently, and at this time he even had the idea of killing him. Then Giant went to chase Boggaroo, and the next time they met, Giant took the initiative to find Long. On a cliff, Giant told Long, your call awakened unnecessary feelings for me. Who are you? I'm really happy to know that the captain is still alive. Because of you, I was injured by Boggaroo. I'm happy to see you again. I'm really happy. Answer me. Faced with Giant's cold voice, Long's long suppressed emotions finally couldn't hold back. This stubborn man was like a child abandoned by his father. He roared helplessly and angrily, stop talking nonsense. After that, he handed the memory display to Hunter Nightsword. This, do you remember? This flame symbol was drawn by you. It seems that this person should have a very important relationship with the human container I occupy, so I will see what their relationship is. Thinking of this, Hunter Nightsword looked at the memory display, and immediately all his memories were read by Hunter Nightsword. He knew his own identity and the relationship between him and the person called Long in front of him. It turns out that the name of the container I occupy is Kazuya Serizawa, the captain of guys, and you are his subordinate and the one he saved. Hunter Nightsword smiled slightly, then returned to his expressionless look, looking at Long and still speaking in a cold tone. In order to be able to move around on this planet, I need a host that can move freely, that is, a human body. What? Container? Occupy? You stole the captain's body, you bastard. What did you do? After hearing what Hunter Nightsword said, Long finally realized that something was wrong. The surprise brought by Captain Serizawa's resurrection finally dissipated, and the instinctive wildness of a hot-blooded man once again came online. He roared in anger, bastard. What did you do to our captain? Hunter Nightsword saw that his opponent was going to fight with him, and before the opponent could grab his clothes, he twisted the opponent's arm, did a joint suppression, and then hit the opponent's stomach hard with his knee. After a severe blow, Long felt that his internal organs were about to be shattered by the knee strike just now. The severe pain made him fall to the ground, and his body curled up like a shrimp. After a long time, he recovered a little. His eyes were red, and he climbed up with difficulty, and angrily said to Hunter Nightsword, give our captain's body back. This is impossible. Before achieving my goal, I really need the body of this person called Serizawa Kazuya. Hunter Nightsword said lightly. This is your wishful thinking, you bastard. He is a very important person to me. Give it back to me. Long took out a pistol and pointed it at Hunter Nightsword. After the fight just now, Long knew that he was definitely not the opponent's opponent in close combat, and now he could only rely on the pistol to make the opponent surrender. Give up, you won't attack. Hunter Nightsword said lightly. Through the memory reading just now, He knew that Long valued the container he was occupying now very much, and it was impossible to use a gun to shoot this container. What? Long was very angry, because the other party was right. He had seen through himself, and the other side was Captain Sarazaur's body, and he couldn't shoot Captain Sarazaur's body anyway. What's wrong? If you don't kill me, I will kill you. Hunter Nightsword showed his knightly aura, and was about to attack when another person suddenly appeared. Will you attack? Hearing this voice, Hunter Nightsword paused his attack and looked back. It was a middle-aged man wearing the uniform of guys. When Hunter Nightsword read his memory just now, he saw this man in his memory and knew that he was a member of guys. His name was Sakimu. You won't hurt this young man, right, Sarazaur-kun? Sakimu said very confidently, but immediately changed his words and said, no, I should call you Jan. Hunter Nightsword looked at Sakimu with a little surprise. He didn't expect that the other party actually knew him, knowing that his name was Jan. Mr. Sakimu? After hearing what Sakimu said, Long was even more confused. He didn't know what happened at all, and asked in confusion. But before Sakimu could explain, an urgent call suddenly came from his intercom. Sakimu didn't bother to explain, and quickly picked up the pager, because once the base called him, it must be something very important. Maybe another monster appeared. I'm Sakimu, what's the matter? Sakimu asked after turning on the pager. Mr. Sakimu, a monster appeared in the third base of Fuji City. Kima's anxious voice came from the pager. Hearing that a new monster had appeared, Sakimu said without hesitation, the team will be dispatched immediately. But, where is Long? Xiangu asked worriedly. Sakimu looked at Long and Hunter Nightsword and said, don't worry, he will also join us. Bruce Wayne looked at Hunter Nightsword on the screen. He was not worried about anything trying to take over his body. He was very confident in his willpower, and could even build a memory maze in his sea of consciousness to trap the enemy. Maybe he couldn't deal with the legendary single universe level strongman, but ordinary superpowers couldn't cause mental harm to him. Maybe some people would say that Batman has an extremely terrifying darkness in his heart, but I still say the same thing. He has no idea where the hell he is going. Chapter 353's off his old friend. At this time, in the quarry, two huge monsters were fighting each other. One of them looked like a giant caterpillar, but it had two long whip-like tails with many barbs on them. They flashed colorful light in the sun. If you get close, you can smell a pungent fishy smell, because his whip tails were poisonous. This whip tail was his main way of attack. Just a casual whip of his whip tail, no matter how hard the boulder was, it would instantly become shattered. Where it swept, countless trees fell down. Ancient monster, two-tailed monster, a scum who didn't even have a unique title, and the other monster had two horns on his head, huge teeth and fangs, and was covered with thick armor. Standing up, it was 50 or 60 meters tall. The two forelimbs had evolved into two long whips. This was also his most important way of attack, which was to use these two whips to quickly whip his enemies. The name of this monster is Guden. He is the natural enemy of the two-tailed monster. His favorite food is the eggs of the two-tailed monster and the young two-tailed monster. So when the two-tailed monster sees Guden, they will basically fight each other, and only one can survive in the end. At this time, the two monsters met and started a tragic fight. They were huge in size. Every collision would cause a small earthquake, which caused rocks to fly and trees to fly. The two monsters fought back and forth, all of which were killing moves. What they didn't know was that the reason they met was not accidental, but they fell into someone else's trap. Not far from them, a black-haired woman watched the two huge monsters fighting each other with interest. Seeing such a terrifying monster, normal people would be afraid, especially women, but there was no fear in this woman's eyes, but she looked very excited. She even kept swallowing her saliva and licking her lips. The way she looked at the two huge monsters was as if she saw two plates of feasts that she could feast on. This is really not what a normal human should look like. In fact, this woman is not a normal human, but Bogaroo. The reason why the two-tailed monster and Guden met and fought was also Bogaroo's doing. The purpose of her coming to the earth is to find new monsters to eat. Only by constantly devouring other monsters can she evolve faster. And the two monsters in front of her are very powerful. Bogaroo looked at the two giants in front of her and thought to himself that, as long as he could devour these two giants, He should be able to evolve, and then his strength would be increased several times. Just thinking about it made him excited. Thinking of this, Boggaroo could no longer bear it, and directly showed his true form, turning into a predator Boggaroo with a height of dozens of meters. Gudin and the two-tailed monster who were fighting each other stopped fighting immediately after feeling the terrifying breath of Boggaroo, and looked at Boggaroo in shock. They felt the terrifying breath from Boggaroo's body, and this breath made them tremble from the depths of their hearts. This is the breath of the natural enemy. They were so scared that they forgot to fight. Facing Boggaroo, they just wanted to escape. But Boggaroo was very excited and roared to the sky, emitting an even more violent breath. As a high-dimensional predator, Boggaroo feeds on various creatures and monsters. Such high-energy life forms are even more tonic for Boggaroo. As a high-dimensional predator, Boggaroo is the nightmare of ordinary life in the entire universe. In this regard, Mr. J next door said that, if he was born 10 years earlier, Boggaroo would be a younger brother. Boggaroo rushed over fiercely, and his tail stretched out to hundreds of meters, like a giant python, tightly entangled the two-tailed monster, making it impossible for him to escape no matter what, and after rolling up the opponent, he lifted it to a high altitude, and then fell heavily to the ground. The size of the two-tailed monster is similar to that of Boggaroo, but its strength is far inferior to that of Boggaroo, and it can't even deal with one of his tails. Boggaroo did not forget about the other monster Gudin. Boggaroo rushed over and slapped Gudin with one claw. Gudin was more violent and a little bolder. After seeing Boggaroo coming, he let out a huge roar and wanted to fight with Boggaroo. He swung two huge whips. Even if these two whips were a small mountain, they could be smashed directly with one whip, but Boggaroo didn't care at all. Boggaroo ignored Gudin's attack and let the opponent's whip lash out at him. As a result, it had no effect and did not cause any harm to Boggaroo. Instead, his attack, with just one claw, knocked Gudin to the ground. He was seriously injured and struggled on the ground for a long time without getting up. In the distance, Giant felt the appearance of Boggaroo and wanted to transform directly. In response, Poshu stopped Long, who wanted to ask more questions. Dragon, Giant is not the enemy. Now, it's time for us to carry out Goose's mission. Point gig. That Captain Sakumu is not an ordinary person. Yes, he was able to recognize Giant's identity at a glance. Ace, Captain Sakumu is an old friend of Zoffy. When Zoffy went to Earth to rescue Manizan, he met Captain Sakumu, who was surrounded by the fleet of the Zetan Star. After defeating the fleet of the Zetan Star together with Captain Sakumu, Zoffy rushed to Earth. Wonder, Captain Sakumu must be at least 60 years old. How come he still looks like he's 30? Ace, I don't know about that. The Kingdom of Light. I didn't expect to see an old friend here. Zoffy looked at Sakumu on the screen and missed him. Back then, he rushed to Earth after receiving the distress signal from the first generation. Actually, there was no distress signal. Superman Iguan made a great contribution, and that was also his first contact with Earthlings. He chose to help the Earthman, Shingo Sakamizu, who was surrounded to cover the retreat of his team members. After a low-power M78 beam destroyed the invading warships of the Zetan Star, he told Sakamizu his identity. When he went to Earth to help Taro, he also took the time to meet his old friend. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Zoffy, who was reminiscing about the past, suddenly heard a sound from the cage. He looked down and saw that it was the bull. Bull Boggaroo Geo saw the majestic self on the screen and then looked at himself now. He couldn't even be called a fat otaku, but a meatball. He left sad tears. Chapter 354 Doubts from Yantao. Zoffy looked at the bull rolling around in the cage and couldn't help but have two questions in mind. First, how did the king feed a cosmic beast into this bear-like state? 2. How about this thing itself? Just when Zoffy was lost in thought, Tregear suddenly asked, "Everyone, why do we have to protect the Earth? Protect life and balance light and darkness? What's wrong, Tregear? We are just ordinary lives. We are not gods, just like Mebius who just arrived on Earth. We will make mistakes. We will do wrong things. Why do we call ourselves messengers of light?" Tregear. Zoffy held the birdcage with one hand, like an old man walking his bird in the park. He said to Tregear, You are right. We Ultra Warriors are certainly not gods. We are also ordinary lives. We will cry. We will feel pain. We will feel sad, and we will have regrets. But it is precisely because of these emotions that we can better feel those who need help. Only by standing in the darkness can you feel the value of light. Zoffy suddenly thought of something. He asked, do you know Belia? The Ultraman who fell into darkness? Yes. Screening room. Are some of the monsters on Earth attracted by Boggaroo? Yes. Hikari said, in our world, there are various kinds of life on many planets. The Guden and the two-tailed monster that just appeared are native creatures of the Earth. Ace, let me add a little known fact. If I remember correctly, the meat of the two-tailed monster tastes the same as lobster meat in the taste system of you Earthlings. Logan, I don't understand, but I'm shocked. Magneto, why is there such a strange fact? The video continues. Boggaroo pounds directly, and the huge wings behind him were like two lips, swallowing Guden whole. Guden's screams were heard immediately, but they disappeared quickly. Guden's entire body was completely swallowed by Boggaroo, without any residue left. When Boggaroo swallowed Guden, the two-tailed monster struggled hard and finally broke free from Boggaroo's tail. He didn't dare to stop for a moment, and wanted to burrow into the ground to leave immediately. As long as he could get into the ground, he could escape this disaster. He dug the ground very quickly. In less than a second, most of his body had already gone into the ground, leaving only a tail. However, Boggaroo grabbed his tail, and with a little force, he pulled the two-tailed monster out of the ground, like pulling a carrot. The two-tailed monster struggled hard, and wanted to escape. Boggaroo opened his wings, and swallowed it alive. After a while, the two-tailed monster was also eaten up by him. After swallowing two monsters in a row, Boggaroo patted his belly with satisfaction. He now felt that his body was full of energy, which was enough for him to evolve, so he started to evolve directly on the spot. The people at Guy's headquarters were all confused when they saw Boggaroo through the big screen. Only Assistant Officer Toriyama was lost in thought as he looked at Boggaroo. He seemed to have seen this monster before, but he couldn't remember it for a while. Should we attack now? This is a very good opportunity, George said impatiently. Assistant Officer Toriyama thought about it. He originally wanted to let Mirai rush over before attacking, but now such a good opportunity would be bad if it was missed, so he ordered to allow the attack. Understood. After firing several shots in a row, each time he accurately hit Boggaroo's body, but it only created a little spark and had no effect. The weapon in his hand had no effect on the monster in front of him. What kind of monster is this? Its defense is so strong. After seeing the effect of the attack, George said with a shocked face. After seeing the video of the people at the headquarters, they were also shocked. George said, I'll try to attack again. After saying that, he wanted to continue attacking, but at this time, Boggaroo finally evolved, and the wings wrapped around him swelled up like a balloon, as if something inside was about to break out of the shell, and then there was a bang, and an explosion sounded. Both George and Marina were scared, but fortunately they were far away from Boggaroo, otherwise they would definitely be affected by the explosion. The explosion came and went quickly. The two of them looked at the monster again, and were shocked to find that the monster had changed a lot. It was only more than 50 meters tall, but now it was 80 meters tall. Its claws were sharper, and the aura on its body was even more violent. Roar. Boggaroo looked up to the sky and howled, emitting a violent aura. What kind of monster is this? George asked nervously again. How come he suddenly became stronger than before? Evolution. This is evolution. Toriyama at the guy's headquarters said in shock after seeing this scene. Evolution? The others looked at Toriyama in confusion, wanting to hear him explain what evolution is. Toriyama said, ordinary monsters don't evolve, they just have the difference between juvenile and adult stages, just like the twin-tailed monster and Guden we know are such ordinary monsters. But this evolution is different. Only a very small number of very powerful monsters will have such powerful abilities. They were already very powerful monsters before evolving, and after evolving, their strength has increased exponentially. Increased exponentially. Doesn't that mean that this monster is many times more powerful than Guden and the twin-tailed monster? Amaya said in shock. What kind of monster is this, and where did it come from? Toriyama's eyes lit up and said, I remember, this is Bogaru. Bogaru, the advanced predator in the universe. No, now he has evolved. His current name is Bogarumons. After remembering the name of Bogarumons, Toriyama looked at the monster howling to the sky on the screen, his eyes full of fear. He quickly said to George on the other side of the intercom, George, Marina, you are no match for this monster. Get out of there quickly. Maybe it's because the bottom line has been refreshed too many times by the brainless manipulation of the American government. Could it be that everyone saw a normal operation and suddenly had a good impression of Commander Toriyama? At least he didn't command his team to go up and give up. Toriyama is usually unreliable, but he is still okay at critical moments. Compared with America, who has never been a human, Toriyama's round figure suddenly looks taller. The idiot who was watching pirated copies on Questions browser and arguing with me. What are you arguing with? This is how I set it up. He is what I say he is. Toriyama is usually a normal person, but brothers who have watched the trilogy of the finale of Mebius and the episode of Zamshia know that Toriyama is very reliable at critical moments. Chapter 355. The video continues. Just after Toriyama finished speaking, after Bogarumons vented the joy of evolution, his eyes turned to George and Marina. When he just evolved, it was these two little bugs that attacked him with weapons. Bogarumon's yellow eyes flashed with lightning, and a beam of electric shock blasted down at them fiercely. The two were so scared that they turned pale and ran away. But how could they run faster than Bogarumons, who was more than 80 meters tall? A beam of electric shock exploded behind them, and the powerful blast wave directly knocked them to the ground. Both of them were dizzy. As long as Bogarumons fired another electric shock beam, these two people would be killed. No, I'm dead this time. George saw this and was completely desperate. Even if he wanted to escape at this time, it was impossible. At the critical moment, he only thought in his mind that he could die, but he must protect Marina. Thinking of this, he threw himself on Marina, intending to use his own body to protect Marina from harm. Then he closed his eyes and waited for the next attack. But after waiting for several seconds, the expected electric shock beam did not hit, but instead heard a familiar voice and the scream of Bogarumons. He opened his eyes and looked back, and saw a red and white figure appear in front of him. Mebius. At this time, Ultraman Mebius was attacking Bogarumons fiercely. It was the timely arrival of Ultraman Mebius that interrupted Bogarumons' attack and saved their lives. After all, Mebius was a top student who graduated from Ultra University. He also went through an internship with the Space Guard and was finally selected as the best newcomer. His comprehensive quality was beyond doubt. In addition, it was a sudden attack, and Bogarumons was caught off guard. But at this moment, after evolving, all the attributes of Bogarumons increased dramatically. These attacks only slightly injured Bogarumons. He had abundant energy in his body, almost endless. With just a little movement, the energy in his body was quickly replenished, and the place injured by Ultraman Mebius immediately recovered. Mebius felt a huge energy in Bogarumon's body. He just planned to use light attacks to kill Bogarumons, but now it seems that, if he really used light attacks, even if he could kill Bogarumons, it would also detonate the energy in his body. If such a huge amount of energy really exploded, at least several nearby cities would be in big trouble. This would be equivalent to dragging all the people in the nearby cities to perish together with Bogarumons, which is definitely not acceptable. His mission is to protect the Earth and humans, not to drag humans and this monster to be buried together. Therefore, if you want to kill Bogarumons without hurting humans, you must not use light attacks, but only physical attacks. Thinking of this, Mebius gave up the light energy that had been condensed and rushed forward again, trying to defeat Bogarumons with physical skills. So the monster and the Ultraman started fighting. Bogarumons, who was prepared, was powerful, especially his strength, which was far greater than that of Ultraman Mebius. Even though Ultraman Mebius's attack skills were several levels stronger than Bogarumons, he still needed to be very careful in front of the opponent's unparalleled strength. But even so, he was still slapped by Bogarumons, and was directly slapped away for hundreds of meters, and fell heavily to the ground. Just as Ultraman Mebius stood up, Bogaruman's tail suddenly became hundreds of meters long, and there were two extremely hard hooks at the end of his tail. The two clamped Ultraman Mebius firmly. Ultraman Mebius grabbed the two hooks and tried his best to pry them apart, but he failed after trying several times. In a pure battle of strength, Ultraman Mebius was no match for his opponent. Then Bogarumans used his tail to roll up Ultraman Mebius and rolled him directly into the air and then smashed him hard to the ground. This is his common skill, the tail electric shock technique. The previous two-tailed monster almost died from this skill. Now it is used to deal with Ultraman Mebius, and it also has a powerful effect. If Ultraman Mebius's defense is not strong enough, this skill alone will throw him to death. After throwing him several times in a row, seeing that he could not be killed by the throwing, Bogarumans opened the huge wings behind him completely, rolled up Ultraman Mebius, and stuffed him into the swallowing organ formed by his wings. The huge wings immediately wrapped Ultraman Mebius tightly. It wants to swallow Ultraman Mebius alive. At this moment, Sakumu and Long finally arrived at the battlefield in their fighter planes. Seeing that Bogarumans wanted to devour Mebius, they opened fire on Bogarumans without any hesitation, and all the weapons on the fighter planes were poured out at once. Ultraman Mebius turned over and landed on the ground. He looked at Sakumu, who was driving the fighter plane, with gratitude. Sakumu gave him an encouraging look and then flew away. He had just used up all the ammunition he carried, and there was no point in staying. Ultraman Mebius carefully examined Bogarumans. This was the most powerful monster he had ever encountered. He could not attack with light skills, but had to use close combat, and he would be swallowed by the opponent if he was not careful. You must find the opponent's weakness. At this moment, Mebius showed the qualities of a qualified Ultraman warrior. He did not rush forward. That was the pig rushing tactic that only a third-rate Ultraman who was not even half-baked would use. Zebao. Xiaomeng observed carefully and finally fixed his eyes on Bogaruman's slender neck. The neck should be his weakness. Mebius rushed up again, and this time his main attack target was the opponent's neck. He found an opportunity to hit the opponent's neck, and Bogarumans immediately let out a tragic cry. Mebius was overjoyed, and it seemed that his judgment was correct. The neck was its fatal weakness. In this situation, Mebius and his speed far exceeded the opponent's, kept attacking. Bogaruman's neck was attacked several times in a short while, and each attack made him painful. Finally, Mebius seized an opportunity and clamped the opponent's neck tightly with his arms. This move is the guillotine in judo. It can even squeeze the opponent unconscious. After Bogaruman's neck was clamped, he tried desperately to break free, but how could Mebius let him do so? No matter how the other party struggled, he just clamped the other party's neck tightly. Soon Bogarumans foamed at the mouth, and the strength of his struggle became weaker. After a while, he completely gave up struggling, and was already fainted by Ultraman Mebius. Good. This boy has the fastest and strongest posture. Fortunately, he didn't blow up the other party directly, otherwise it would be a big deal. It's bad. Hikari stood up suddenly. The sword is still beside it. BV1DL4Y1T7MQ. Let me recommend a video to everyone. BV1DL4Y1T7MQ of the small broken station. I may know what I need. I may just want one. Crying his arms. That's all. Update. It won't be interrupted because I need to eat. If it is interrupted, the impact on the manuscript fee will be very large. What is this called? The Sorrow of Adults? The video I just posted. Everyone can really take a good look. Chapter 356. The Terrifying Sword of Revenge. A blue light flew towards Bogarumans. Thanks to Xiaomeng's quick eyes and hands, Bogarumans was prevented from being blown up by the blue light. It's the sword. The one who knew the Hunter Knight sword best was Hikari himself. He had guessed that the sword, whose only purpose was to kill Bogarumans, would not miss any opportunity to kill Bogarumans, even if the cost was his, Mebius, and the lives of a large number of Earthlings. A person blinded by hatred is extremely terrifying. Seeing that the attack failed, the sword immediately summoned the Sword of Revenge to kill Bogarumans. At the moment, when the Sword of Revenge was about to hit Bogarumans, another lightsaber firmly blocked the front of the Sword of Revenge. Mebius looked at the blue giant in front of him. The negative energy on the other party was almost transformed into substance. If the strong resentment left the body, it would immediately transform into a very powerful negative energy monster. This is an extremely terrifying enemy. This was Mebius' first impression of the Hunter Knight Sword. After all, a normal person would go completely insane if he didn't die after being possessed by such a terrifying grudge, and the guy in front of him, although full of murderous intent, at least had the most basic rationality. Is that blue guy an enemy? Is it because he is blue? Yes, the Ultra Warriors that have appeared on Earth have always been silver red, which has also formed an inherent impression among people. That is, Ultra Warriors are silver red giants, friends, and friends who can be absolutely trusted. And this blue guy not only attacked their Ultraman, but also wanted to blow up Boggerumans and detonate this super biological bomb. Captain, let's attack. No, he just wants to kill Boggerumans. Mr. Sasu came over from behind and said softly, with a trace of worry in his eyes, "Don't worry, trust Mebius, he will take care of it." While they were talking, Hikari had already rushed up and fought with Mebius. The two of them were waving lightsabers, and every time the lightsabers collided, there would be a violent explosion and flames, which was earth-shaking. Everyone was also worried. The sword is really strong. Looking at the long sword waving on the screen, each move was fatal, and the endless fire of revenge burned the void, as if it was going to burn up the Hunter Knight Sword of this world. In addition to hatred and anger, everyone felt a sense of fatal threat from the other party. What a terrifying swordsman. Bruce Wayne, as an all-around player, naturally practiced swordsmanship, and had dabbled in various schools of the East and the West. Even if he was not the opponent of the old swordsman who specialized in one, no ordinary person could match him in terms of knowledge. Bruce's rich experience allowed him to immediately judge that the Hunter Knight Sword at this moment was very different from the weak scientist who waved the turtle fist sword technique before. Thanos. Interesting. I'm curious about how many battles Hunter Knight Sword experienced in the process of hunting down Boggaru to develop such a skill. Thanos. The armor of revenge was probably completely integrated with Hunter Knight Sword in this process. Resentment and hatred are a very terrifying force. It is like the abyss. It will give people strength while leading people into the endless abyss. Strange, yes. Why would some people be tempted by darkness and fall? Because the power of darkness is really fascinating. Just imagine that the power you have cultivated for decades can be obtained by others by turning to darkness. It is difficult to resist such a gap. Strange. This is also a big reason why Caecilius was able to seduce a large number of Camotage wizards. Avengers building. Ancient One frowned slightly. This doesn't sound right. As the Supreme Sorcerer, Ancient One's biggest dream now is to die early and be reborn early and to follow the Eternal God. But as the Supreme Sorcerer, she instinctively felt a little uneasy about Strange's remarks. A Supreme Sorcerer actively promotes the power of darkness, even if it is a warning to the world. It is not good. Wanda, yes, my power of chaos reacts particularly well to this kind of emotion. On the battlefield of Wakanda, I was able to use Chaos Sky Dragon, a super large magic that I still can't control well, beyond the limit. A big part of the reason is that the situation at that time was too urgent, and I thought that if I failed, Ziohuan would die, and other people would die too. The most important thing is that I watched the video of Avengers 3, Infinity Gauntlet. In short, this is what I mean, you understand. Strange, although what you said was a mess, I did understand it. That is to say, you burst out with super strong power because of the anger in your heart, right? Wanda, yes, that kind of power is very strong and terrifying, and it almost swallowed me up. Really, at that time, it was just a little bit away, and I might not be able to control my power. Thanos, so I have always emphasized the importance of inner strength. The power brought by hatred and anger can certainly make you strong for a while, but that is no different from setting yourself on fire. When the flame is big enough, it will ignite you together. Constantine, yes, I heard that there is an ancient mind magic, which relies on emotions as the source of mana. Constantine, according to the information I found, it is a very magical magic. It does not require you to borrow power from gods or demons, nor does it require any strange rituals. It only needs your emotions, such as the fire of anger. It requires your inner anger. The more angry you are, the more powerful the flame will be. It is said that when the power of the fire of anger reaches a certain level, even the hellfire of the devil will avoid its edge. Constantine. But that is just a rumor, because even if you can have that kind of anger, you will be burned to death by the fire of anger before the flame burns to that extent. The video continues. Although Mebius is an excellent member of the Space Guard, and he has received special training from Taro of the Ultra Brothers before coming to Earth, compared to the Hunter Knight Sword dominated by hatred, Mebius is still too tender. After only a few exchanges, he fell into a disadvantage. Later, the Hunter Knight Sword cut off the Mebius lightsaber extending from the Mebius aura. The Mebius aura given by Ultra Father is no match for the aura of the Knight infected by the will of revenge. As long as the lightsaber has enough energy, it can be repaired infinitely, but the Hunter Knight Sword does not give Mebius this opportunity. It cuts down Mebius with one sword, and then points the lightsaber at Bogorumans who is lying on the ground. After chasing countless galaxies and crossing countless planets, now he can finally take revenge. All the power is gathered in the lightsaber, making the flame of revenge on the lightsaber rise fiercely. He raises the long sword high and vows to kill Bogorumans with one sword. Die. The terrifying fire of revenge burns on the sword of revenge. Next, this flame will ignite Bogoruman's body and burn it to ashes. Then the terrifying energy in Bogoruman's body will be detonated, and everything around will be destroyed by the terrifying energy storm, including the sword itself. But the Hunter Knight Sword, blinded by hatred, doesn't care about these. He just wants revenge. He is a spirit of revenge born from hatred and anger. The gentle and modest gentleman had long died in the battle to defend Abastar. Now he lives only to avenge Bogaru. Bakeru. A curse came from an unknown distance. Hearing this voice, Hunter Knight Sword suddenly felt dizzy. Right square bracket. Chapter 357 The Sour Screening Room. Who is cursing? Who else could it be? It must be the street cursing dragon. The dragon's extremely penetrating and iconic voice was transmitted into the mind of the Hunter Knight Sword. Perhaps Captain Sarazawa's consciousness was briefly awakened by the double attack of the dragon's curse and the heart to protect the earth. Perhaps the dragon's voice was too penetrating and hurt the sword's eardrums. Anyway, the sword stopped. The sword stood there blankly, and the sword of revenge burning with the fire of revenge in his hand also turned into light particles all over the sky and disappeared. Everyone saw that the Hunter Knight Sword, who had already raised the sword of revenge, stopped there, covering his head, as if he was struggling violently in his brain. After such a delay, Bogorumans had already woken up. There was a flash of lightning in his eyes, and immediately there was an electric shock beam shooting towards the Hunter Knight Sword, directly blowing the Hunter Knight Sword away. Then he fired several electric shock beams in succession, each of which hit the Hunter Knight Sword fiercely, causing the Hunter Knight Sword to be seriously injured. However, because Ultraman Mebius was still nearby, the naturally cautious Bogorumans took 2 steps back without a second thought and immediately disappeared. Hunter Knight Giant stood up, holding his injured arm, and tried to look for Bogorumans, but the other party had already fled, so there was no way he could find him. Seeing this, the panting giant also disappeared on the spot. Mireille, who had transformed into a human, found Giant under a tree. Giant still had that cold and stinky face. You don't need to help me. It's only natural to help your companions. I have already abandoned the Ultra Heart. I'm no longer your companion. Nonsense. Future roared back with a louder voice. Whether it is bound by armor or entangled by resentment, the heart cannot be abandoned casually. Although you said that the lives on this planet are all low-level creatures, the creatures on this planet are all struggling to survive. What is the difference between you taking their lives and Bogaru? Besides, even if your revenge is successful, won't you still be bound by another set of armor? An armor called the Earth. Sword did not answer Future's words, but said, "It's so beautiful." Yes, it was dusk and sunset again. Giant looked at the beautiful sunset and asked, "What kind of person is Sarazawa?" This person gradually injected the memory of Ahura Ryu into my heart. Captain Sarazawa is a very important person to Ryu. I see. Giant nodded. A smile emerged on his face. So that's how it is. The feelings I gave up were restored in that instant. But I still want revenge. No matter what, I must have revenge. Giant, Looking at Jan's receding back, Miri said, "You can't give it up, because that feeling is gentle and kind. It seems that I owe Miri a big favor." Hikari smiled and said, "And Serizawa and Ryu, they awakened those precious feelings in my heart that I gave up." Image continues, in order to deal with Boggerumans, which has high energy in its body and is no different from a super bomb, guys formulated a Boggerumans annihilation plan. They chose a lucky person who was not watching, an uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean as the combat location, and carried out the Boggerumans annihilation war. In order to prevent the huge energy fluctuations caused by the explosion of Boggeru from affecting the ecological environment of the Earth, guys set up 6 parabolic launchers on the edge of the island to generate a magnetic field barrier. The operation plan is to lead Boggeru to the center of the island, and then use the launcher to generate a magnetic field, wrap it in the magnetic field, and the 1200mm particle accelerators distributed on the island will fire at it, and then get rid of it. The energy generated by the explosion after Boggeru is blown up will be blocked by the magnetic field array. Listening to Misaki, who was explaining the plan, the old bird on the side said, a little unhappy, "Why don't you let me, the assistant officer, explain such an important operation?" "Probably because it's not that important," Meru explained. Hearing the words of the two logical geniuses, Misaki smiled and didn't care about the two jokers. "Wait a minute. What about Mebius? Mebius will definitely come back. Are we going to kill Mebius too? Mebius is our partner. And there's a sword," Long said on the side. Murray looked up at the sun outside the guy's base. He had calculated that, after fighting with Boggeru, he would not have enough energy to teleport to escape the magnetic barrier. This planet in the future is for the future of mankind. Standing in the open space, looking at the sky, the future sent out a strong thought wave. "Boggeru, I'll wait for you here. Pre-mock, Xiaomeng is so good." At the combat meeting the next day, Teppei answered everyone's concerns yesterday. "We will never sacrifice Ultraman Mebius to defeat Boggeru." Xiaomeng on the side was so moved that she almost cried when she heard this. Yesterday they stayed up all night just to find a way out for Mebius and the sword. "We will launch the capture matrix before Boggeru explodes. A hole will appear on the screen. Use this hole to rescue Mebius and the sword. Plug up the hole while rescuing them, and then let Boggeru explode inside. Our enemy is the demon Boggeru, and Mebius is our comrade. If we harm other lives in order to defeat Boggeru, then there is no need for us to exist." Looking at the guys, people on the screen who expressed their concerns about Mebius, and the people who stayed up all night just to protect Mebius, at this moment, the sour taste permeated many worlds and theaters. At this moment, it is not just the Ultra Brothers of the Kingdom of Light who are jealous, even Stark and Wanda are starting to be jealous. Look at this teammate, and then look at the group of bastards you are protecting. Damn, I'm fighting hard with the enemy on the front line, and they only want to throw nuclear bombs to send themselves and the enemy to the sky. Originally, their highest request for government assistance was not to stab them in the back while they were fighting. "Just lie down and wait for us to take you away, please." But seeing their teammates, a group of Marvel superheroes, were as sour as the old style pickled cabbage beef noodles. "I could have injured the darkness, but why did you let me see the light?" And there is Xiaomeng. As an alien, Mebius is ready to sacrifice for the future of the Earth. All of this is a severe shock to the three views of most people in the theater. Even though we saw it with our own eyes, Bruce Wayne still asked in disbelief why. He has no relatives or friends on Earth, and he came to Earth just for a business trip. Why is he fighting so hard, even at the cost of his own life? Ace, this is a bond between our Ultra Warriors and the Earthlings. It is really hard to explain in simple words. Right square bracket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358, The Alliance of Dream and Sword. The video continues. Uncle Wang, Uncle Wang, Uncle Wang. The battle begins with the classic Uncle Wang song. A terrifying monster roars in the sky. Everyone looks in the direction of the sound and sees Bogaruman suddenly appear from mid-air, roaring loudly, deafening everyone, and then landing with a bang, causing a small earthquake on the entire island. At this moment, the magnetic barrier is instantly deployed, and Bogarumans is trapped in the barrier. When Bogarumans finds himself trapped, he attacks the barrier angrily, and his huge claws hit the barrier, splashing waves, but he can't break through the barrier. The guy's team members who have been waiting for this moment see it, and immediately launch a fierce attack on Bogarumans. They remotely control the 1200mm particle accelerator and launch a fierce output at Bogarumans. The attack power of these particle accelerators is extremely terrifying. Even steel and iron bones will be torn apart in an instant. The flesh and blood Bogarumans will definitely be finished on the spot. But unexpectedly, after Bogarumans evolved, his strength has increased several times, especially his defense, which is extremely strong. The bombardment of the particle accelerator accurately exploded on Bogarumans, but it only made him scream in pain, and did not cause him fatal damage. After the smoke fell, everyone saw Bogarumans rushing out of the smoke, with a flash of lightning in his eyes, and a beam of electric shock destroyed a particle accelerator. The evolved Bogarumans not only increased its strength, but also overcame its weakness, electric shock, and all its attributes were greatly increased. Boom. X6 After 6 consecutive explosions, the 6 particle accelerators they deployed nearby were all destroyed. Everyone in the guy's organization was shocked. This was too powerful. Even the main attack weapon was destroyed. How could they destroy Bogarumans? Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to do next. At the same time, Giant said to the future, Mebius, can you lend me a hand? Sword. My vitality is about to run out. My body is already exhausted. Bogarumans killed my friends and my favorite planet. I traveled across half of the Milky Way and countless planets, just to kill Bogarumans and complete my revenge. If I can't kill him, I will die with regret. Mebius, I need your help. Giant said to Mebius very sincerely. They have already put aside their past grudges. At this time, Giant also clearly realized the gap in strength between him and Bogarumans. It is impossible for him to kill Bogarumans by himself. Now he can only ask for Mebius' help. Sword, I said, we are both Ultraman. We are companions. We will definitely win. Mebius agreed without hesitation. At this moment, Bogarumans found the two of them, and knew that the trap was set by the two of them. As long as the two Ultramen were killed, he could do whatever he wanted on Earth and no one could stop him. He roared and rushed towards the two. Hickory and Mebius faced the angry Bogarumans. They activated the Night's Aura and Mebius's aura at the same time. The Night's Aura and Mebius's aura were activated at the same time. In the cold blue-black angular light and the warm sun-colored infinite flames, two giants, one blue and one red, descended at the same time. Mebius and Sword appeared. Sakumizu saw this scene and nodded silently. Mebius and Hickory dealt with Bogarumans at the same time. There should be no problem this time. However, there is one last problem, which is to rescue the two of them from the magnetic field array in time. He said to Long through the intercom, Long, George, I'll leave it to you next. Gig. Long's eyes were extremely firm. He looked at the sword in the barrier and whispered, I will definitely rescue you. Bet on Gig's pride. Long's mission is to open a gap in the magnetic field array to help Mebius and Hickory out. At this time, Hickory and Mebius have already fought with Bogarumans. Perhaps it is God's will. The combat power of the sword and Mebius, after joining forces, is definitely not just as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, but it is doubled. But Bogarumans is also abnormally powerful, especially his defense and strength. If it were an ordinary monster, the attack of the two Ultramen together would have been beaten into a meat pie by them long ago, but when it hit Bogarumans, it almost did not cause any damage. On the contrary, Bogarumans could just slap Hickory and Mebius away. The difference in strength between the two sides was very large. If it was a single Ultraman fighting Bogarumans, the winner would have been decided by now, and Ultraman would have been swallowed by the other side. However, fortunately, Hickory and Mebius cooperated very well. Every time one of them was beaten back, the other would immediately rush forward desperately to give the other a chance to catch his breath. In this way, the two sides maintained a delicate balance, fighting each other until the sky was dark and the entire surface of the island was completely destroyed. The sword punched Bogaruman's in the stomach and repelled it. Then Mebius jumped up and kicked Bogaruman's head with an authentic swallow-style flying kick, making Bogaruman's dizzy. Under the joint attack of Giant and Hickory, Bogaruman's gradually fell into a disadvantage. Two fists could not beat four hands. Mebius and Giant cooperated very well. Under the joint attack, Bogarumans was unable to take care of the front and the rear. Finally, the furious Bogarumans used the new ability it gained after evolution, shooting out two light whips made entirely of energy from its eyes. This was his secret weapon, which he had never used before, because it consumed a lot of energy. However, the power of this move was also very great. As long as it was caught by these two light whips, it could immediately absorb the energy in the opponent's body, which was much more powerful than swallowing with wings. Seeing this, Giant and Mebius immediately flew into the air to avoid it. The two light whips chased after them. They seemed to be able to extend infinitely, like two giant pythons emitting lightning light chasing after the two Ultramen, vowing to swallow them up. Chiruji and Mebius immediately released their lightsabers and slashed at the incoming light whips, shattering them. Mebius and Chiruji looked at each other and attacked at the same time. Twin Keystream Thrust. Chapter 359. A Base Tragedy. The two flew at their highest speed and met in the air to form a falling figure eight. They moved at high speed and hit Bogarumans alternately. Although they had never joined forces, the two Ultramen who looked very similar at this moment seemed to have telepathy and use this difficult joint skill. Because the speed was too fast, even Bogarumans could not see their figures, so let alone counterattack. Even defense was impossible and could only passively withstand the continuous attacks of the two Ultramen. Each time the twin airflow sprint hit Bogarumans fiercely, an explosion would occur, causing huge damage to Bogarumans, and Bogarumans kept making tragic screams. After hundreds of attacks on Bogarumans, their joint attack also stopped, but Bogarumans was also severely injured and fell to the ground with a bang. Chiruji and Mebius looked at each other and nodded to each other. For the future of the Earth, for the lives of the universe. Mebius for Abo. Sword go to hell. Bogaru. Sword and Mebius gathered all their strength and used their light skills to attack. Sword gathered all the energy in his body into the Knight's aura, releasing a dazzling blue light, forming a cross with his hands, and suddenly shot out a blue ray with a terrifying high temperature. Mebius also shot out a red ray. This is Mebius' most commonly used and most proficient skill, with a Mebius ray of 100,000 degrees high temperature. The two strongest light skills were not ranked in order, and they bombarded Bogarumans at the same time, making Bogarumans retreat continuously, and explosions kept occurring on his body. After the two skills ended, Bogarumans fell to the ground again, without any movement. Originally, a large amount of energy has accumulated in Bogarumans' body. If they use light attacks, their entire body will explode violently. Although they can kill Bogarumans, they will also be injured. But now they can't take care of their own safety. They can't rest until Bogarumans dies. Even if they die together, they must kill Bogarumans today. When Bogarumans fell, Giant's eyes under the armor of revenge showed a touch of relief. Abo, I did it. You can rest in peace. Giant's legs softened, as if all the energy in his body disappeared at this moment. The first swordsman in the universe who came to stop him disappeared at this moment, leaving only an empty shell without power. When Giant was about to fall, Mebius, who was beside him, quickly helped him up. Mebius and the others have won. The people at the guy's headquarters who were observing the entire battle process cheered when they saw that they had finally won. But before they could be happy, the monitoring equipment immediately sounded a rapid alarm. Not good. The energy in Bogaruman's body is rising rapidly. The situation is very critical, and it may explode at any time. Long, George, it's up to you next. Tsukumizu said. The meteor technique is unlocked. Long drove the fighter plane to the sky above the island. A huge magnetic field array enveloped the entire island. At this time, Mebius and Hickory were both in this magnetic field array. If Bogarumans exploded, these two Ultramen would definitely die. Capture Matrix. Launch. Long gave an order and pressed the launch button. Two energy beams were immediately launched from the fighter plane and shot towards the magnetic field array. The originally airtight magnetic field array was hit by these two energy beams, and a big hole was created. This big hole was just right for Mebius and Giant to fly out. "Come out quickly," Long shouted loudly. After hearing the iconic voice of the scolding dragon, Mebius looked at the big hole in the magnetic field array. He was about to fly away with a sword, but at this time, something unexpected happened. I saw that Bogarumans, who should have been completely dead, actually climbed up again. The sword sensed Bogarumans' movements. Without any hesitation, his body, which had lost its strength, once again squeezed out the last bit of life energy in his body. He raised the lightsaber and slashed at Bogarumans. His purpose of living was to kill Bogarumans. No matter what, Bogarumans must die. The lightsaber fiercely tore a huge wound on Bogaruman's body, and even the entire lightsaber sank into Bogaruman's body, which made the already very violent energy in Bogaruman's body unstable again, and Bogarumans also let out a scream that resounded through the sky. Without turning his head, Giant said to Mebius, "Go, my life has come to an end. My mission is to kill Bogaru. As long as I see Bogaru explode, my revenge will be successful." After saying this, he stabbed the lightsaber into Bogaruman's body again, causing the energy in his body to surge more violently. The energy in Bogaruman's body surged and clashed violently. Bogarumans could no longer control the energy in his body and was on the verge of exploding. This made his whole body emit a blazing red light like a red-hot iron block, and the explosion was imminent. Giant stabbed the sword of revenge into Bogaru's body, and he had already intended to die. No. From the moment he put on the armor of revenge, he was already a dead soldier with the goal of killing Bogaru. Dead soldiers, regardless of life, regardless of everything, only for the goal. What nonsense are you talking about? At this moment, sparks burst out from Bogaru's body, and there were only a few seconds before Bogaru exploded. Mebius rushed directly to the sword, and in front of him was the exploding Bogaru. Dazzling light burst out from Bogaru's body, and Mebius picked up the sword and flew towards the exit. The devastating explosion started behind them. In such an explosion, even a powerful giant like the Giant of Light would be blown to pieces. Captain Serizawa. After seeing the explosion, Long shouted at the top of his lungs. But at this moment, Ultraman Mebius hugged the powerless Hikari and retreated at full speed at the moment of the explosion, and successfully flew out before the hole in the magnetic field array disappeared. And just after he flew out of the hole was restored to its original state, and the flames of the explosion were firmly blocked in the magnetic field array by the magnetic field array, without releasing any. Operation success. The others cheered loudly when they saw the two Ultramen finally escape at the critical moment. Giant. Although Mebius rescued the Hunter Knight Giant, he was seriously injured in the fight with Bogarumans, especially in the final explosion. He was the first to bear the brunt. At this time, Giant was so seriously injured that he couldn't even speak. He stretched out his hand with almost all his strength, as if he wanted to grab something. Maybe it was the dead life forms of Abastar who came to summon him. Giant knew that his life had come to an end. Mebius was heartbroken and wanted to grab Giant's hand, but Giant's hand fell down weakly and the light in his eyes completely dissipated. Giant died. Rather than saying that Giant died in the explosion of Bogarumans, it is better to say that Giant died in his own fire of revenge. The fire of revenge will burn everything, and finally burn oneself, dragging oneself into an endless abyss. When you stare into the abyss is also staring at you. In the flames of revenge, Giant burned everything he had, and finally completed his revenge. Giant was freed at this moment along with Abbo's resentment. Mebius looked at this scene in disbelief. He couldn't accept such a thing. Giant was a companion who fought side by side with him. How could he die so easily? He had been rescued. No, impossible. Tell me this is not true. That was Captain Serizawa, the most important person in his life. Giant's death means that Captain Serizawa will also die. Ryu screamed in grief and knelt on the ground in pain. Guy's team members also looked at this scene very sadly. They didn't want to see this sad scene. But at this moment, a holy light suddenly fell from the sky. This light enveloped the dead Giant's body. The energy in the light merged into Giant's body, making his whole body appear a layer of golden light. Mebius Ultra looked at this scene in shock, but he did not interrupt, because he was very familiar with this energy, which was the unique light energy of their Ultra clan. Chirruj's whole body slowly floated up, his whole body was wrapped in a ball of blazing light energy, and he quickly flew to an unknown space in the air. Mebius looked at this scene, his heart full of hope. He knew that it must be the people from their kingdom of light who rescued Hikari. Maybe Hikari could be resurrected. The fact is, just as Mebius thought, Chirruj's body entered a magical light space, and a huge Ultraman figure appeared in a blazing light. Her whole body was filled with the glory of a loving mother. Under the illumination of this loving mother's glory, Chirruj miraculously regained consciousness. Ultraman Hikaru, open your eyes. I'm Mother of Ultra. The Legend of Hikaru, the Tragedy of Planet Aber and Captain Mary. Hikaru looked at the giant on the screen, who was shining with the glory of a loving mother. He was too familiar with him. Chapter 360. Magneto suddenly realized something. Kingdom of Light. Mary? Father Rayo looked at the familiar figure on the screen, and was a little surprised. He didn't expect his lover to appear. But that's right, as the captain of the Silver Crusaders, Mary is indeed the Silver Crusaders member with the strongest healing light in the entire Kingdom of Light. Going to Earth to rescue Hikari might have happened while taking care of Mebius. Screening room. That Ultraman is Captain Mary. She has a motherly healing ray and is honored as a mother of Ultra by the Ultra warriors of the Land of Light. She is like a kind Ultra warrior who is the mother of all young warriors. The healing master of the Land of Light, the captain of the Silver Cross, has mastered all the healing ray skills of the Land of Light. Hikari looked at himself on the screen and said, "It seems that I don't have to die. Can even the dead be revived?" Hikari thought for a while and said, "I should still have a breath, but I'm on the verge of death. With Captain Mary's strength, it won't be a big problem to save me." Hikari didn't say anything else. That is, if he was really dead. Considering some of his past inventions, it wouldn't be a big problem to revive himself. It's good to be alive. Hikari looked at himself on the screen. Being alive can also atone for the sins I have committed. Yes, although the theater didn't show it, but based on his attitude towards Tregear at that time, he was in the universe, because his mind was not clear, and he probably accidentally hurt countless innocent lives. Go back and explain to Tregear first. The kid's mental state was unstable to begin with. After watching this video, he must be even more upset. Hikari smiled bitterly. If he had known this situation earlier, he would have talked to Zofie about Tregear's situation. Screening room. Magneto suddenly realized an important problem that he had overlooked. The shield that can block even Bogaruman's attack and the explosion after his death is made of magnetism. Magneto was a little bit unbelievable. He was an old hand at playing with magnetism. How could magnetism be used like this? Exclamation mark. He didn't believe it. Although it is more complicated, in the final analysis, this is still an application of magnetism. Logan, good boy. Your ability can actually reach this point. Awesome. Magneto, I don't know either. Tony Stark, so this is the difference between a genius and a fool. If I give you your ability, I can develop it to a level you can't imagine, but you can only use it as telekinesis and hit people with iron blocks. Facing Tony's ridicule on the public screen, Magneto suppressed his anger and asked, "Then tell me what I can do with magnetism?" Thanos. Theoretically, if you are really Magneto instead of Magneto, then you can exterminate most of the creatures on a planet by just developing your abilities a little bit. Magneto, how can it be so strong? You can exterminate most of the creatures on a planet with just a little development? Exclamation mark. If you are so strong, how can you not revitalize the mutant race? A group of Earthlings don't want Thanos to continue talking. Magneto is an anti-human element at first glance. If he really knows about it, who knows what will happen to that world? Tony Stark, you can shut up. Magneto, why don't you let him continue talking? You humans are too nosy. I advise you not to try that for the sake of your people. Bruce Wayne deliberately said, if the Earth's magnetic field is reversed, the first to suffer is the atmosphere. After the atmosphere is destroyed, strong ultraviolet rays will directly invade the surface. At that time, the plants on the surface will be the first to suffer, and then a large number of animals will be irradiated by ultraviolet rays and become diseased, followed by large-scale biological extinction. Mutants will not have an easy time either. Even if some mutants have strong vitality and can resist the erosion of ultraviolet rays, the geomagnetic effect caused by the reversal of the magnetic field will only cause frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, if you are lucky, and the continental shelf will collapse. If you are unlucky, a tsunami will sweep across the continent, the earth will be torn apart, and all life on the entire surface will be destroyed. Even if this is the case, you can still survive, then you will definitely not be able to survive the last level. Bruce Wayne said seriously, the geomagnetic effect will cause changes in gravity, and the Earth's gravity will increase. Can you imagine what will happen if an item that originally weighed 100 kilograms suddenly increases to 300, 500, or even 1 ton? And the change in the Earth's gravity will increase the attraction to the moon, breaking the balance between the Earth and the moon. I won't tell you what will happen, but the final outcome is that the moon will hit the Earth. Holy Lord, this is true. Holy Lord, my big brother, the moon demon Zulon, is an expert in this area. He told me that if he wants to destroy the Earth, he only needs to slightly modify the moon's orbit, and the creatures on Earth will suffer all kinds of natural disasters because the balance between the Earth and the moon is broken. Demon hell. Zulon, why do you tell them this? Isn't it better to let them kill each other? Zhang Su asked puzzledly after just gnawing on the last mammoth leg. Chaos is not in my interest. ZHU Lan looked at the screen and said, this screening room is not a place of chaos. On the contrary, under the surface of carelessness, there is a great order. Before touching this great order, we can play around, but once we touch this great order, the great rules, that existence will really take action. I think that instigating a mortal to destroy a world should be considered as touching that great order. How can you be sure that that existence will care about this group of mortals that have nothing to do with him? Facing Basher's question, ZHU Lan asked back, how can you be sure that he won't care? ZHU Lan looked at the screen quietly. His voice was not like the other 6 demons with electronic music, but had the feeling of an old gentleman. I will not allow anyone to affect my escape plan. Any uncertain factors must be killed in the cradle. I don't know if that stupid mortal will make a move to change the rules of the screening room, but I don't want it to happen. ZHU Lan's eyes flashed with scarlet light, and the Holy Lord beside him had flashing eyes. He got some interesting information from the previous prey. The world on the other side of the door seems to have humans. These guys are everywhere, just like the bugs that can't be killed. Cinema. Everyone worked together to dispel Magneto's crazy ideas, but also planted a seed in Magneto's heart. As for when this seed will grow into a towering tree, we have to wait and see. When I wrote the 3-body problem, didn't you say that, as long as I updated enough, you wouldn't think I was just a waste of time? Chapter 361, Swordsman of the Universe. Chapter 2, Swordsman of the Universe in the Golden Space. John lay flat. Captain of the Silver Cross. Mebius looked at Ultraman in front of him and said, no, Mother of Ultra, his life has already. Although it is running out, a miracle will happen. No, there is no need. Giant's voice suddenly sounded. Perhaps it was a last gasp. Giant, whose life was almost exhausted, regained his will, and his voice was gradually recovering. Boggaroo has been defeated, and there is no meaning for me to live. But there are still people who hope you can live. As Mother of Ultraman spoke, a man in black appeared on Giant's chest. That was Kazuya Serizawa. The scene changed, and they came to the training base of Guys. The members of Guys were running exercises, and the one in the territory was Long. While doing exercises, Long recited the 5 oaths of Ultra in his hoarse voice. First, you cannot go to school on an empty stomach. Second, you must dry your blankets in the sun when the weather is good. Third, you must pay attention to the vehicles when crossing the road. Fourth, at the same time, the monsters denisms that have been wandering in the universe came to the Earth in groups. Boggaroo has been dead for many days, but its troublesome soul, that is, the troubles it once left for hunting, are still happening. This group of denisms followed the denisms that were led to the Earth by Boggaroo. In order to prevent the attack of space monsters, the Guys space station has reinstalled the space bomb in the outer space Layton R-30. This thing is the equipment left by the Ultra Guard during the 7 period, and it seems to be the same style as the star blasting missile R1. Note 1. In the universe, a large number of denialisms flew towards the Earth, and they really experienced the Leiden R-30 minefield arranged by the guy's space base. The violent explosion bloomed a bunch of gorgeous flowers composed of death and destruction in the universe. From the ground, it was like stars that lit up in an instant and then disappeared dimly. Seeing this annoying name, it was hard for everyone not to recall the R1 star blasting missile that impressed them, and the innocent soul that was accidentally injured by R1, the Keelan Star Beast. Since it is the follow-up series of R1, it shouldn't be a big deal to solve the denialisms. The power of R1 is obvious to all. Now not only are there so many of them, but the model has been developed to R30. If it follows the rule that each generation is stronger than the previous one, they are not surprised that this thing can blow up the moon. Wonder, isn't this thing banned from research and development? Loki Odinson, what do you mean by banning research and development? At that time, the commander said that he might propose to the higher authorities to ban development. It would be normal for the higher authorities to agree or not, and then regret it. Bruce Wayne, but at least for now, at least these weapons are very effective. Gwang, Bogaroo, you really deserve to die. This is the first time that Gwang said such a thing. Usually, Hikaru is very gentle. He is always the first to rush to something. He has helped many people and served as a spiritual mentor for many people. He has a high status in the hearts of everyone in the theater. If everyone in the theater has a friendliness table, then Hikaru must be at least in the top 3, and the lowest level is respect. Even Loki, who is always looking for scolding, will respect and follow Hikaru in more serious occasions. The video continues. After entering the minefield, some of the denizens were killed by the explosion, and most of them were forced to change their trajectory. Although this thing has no eyes, it has a brain. Seeing countless companions being killed, the living ones consciously modified their movement trajectory and left pheromones here. Run. Silly children, run. But there was a denizen who was lucky or unlucky and successfully broke through the minefield and rushed into the Earth's atmosphere. Guys quickly moved out. The dragon looked at denizen and whispered, roughly, "Denizen, this time, I won't let you pass by me again." Phoenix, separate. Meteor technology, transcendence technology, start. The two planes emitted a golden light. This is the most advanced forbidden technology of mankind, meteor technology. It is said that meteor technology has a more important purpose, but what it is, only the top leaders of guys know. Loki Odinson, what other purpose can it have? I guess it must be a counterattack on the universe. Wanda, can you shut up? Loki Odinson, did I say something wrong? I'm just guessing. I'm just putting forward this guess. I have to admit that in terms of sophistry, Loki deserves his title of the god of trickery. At least Wanda was hit hard by him. The video continues. Bling a fan, start. George drove the Yanmenghu loader and used the Bullying a fan, which was a technically advanced version. The modified Bullying a fan not only had the ability to send out a violent gust of wind to roll up the monster and then throw it hard to the ground, but also could heat it in the wind, creating a super hot tornado. At this moment, the Bullying a fan only sent out 2 tornadoes. Under the attack of the Bullying a fan tornado, the entire monster fell from the sky, spun all the way down, and fell hard to the ground, and immediately fell to the ground. Then Long drove the wing and used the Spicium warhead missile. The Spicium warhead missile, which contained Spicium materials mined from Mars, caused huge damage to the Titanism with just 2 shots there. Titanism couldn't even scream because its head was directly blown off. What a terrifying weapon. Is this thing really developed by humans themselves? Even Hikari looked at it sideways. He estimated and said, even with the addition of Spicium material, the power of this missile head is no weaker than the Spicium beam used by some elite ultra warriors. It can be used to kill some monsters of average strength. In other words, the humans on this earth already have the ability to protect themselves. The Kingdom of Light. Seeing the power of the Spicium warhead missile, the first generation, as the only master of Spicium beam in the Kingdom of Light, was very shocked. As an expert, he could of course see that the power of this thing was enough for humans to protect themselves and really kill monsters rather than photon rejuvenate them. The most important thing is that the humans in that timeline already have the heart to operate weapons of this level. It seems that Mobius should be the last Ultra Warrior sent to Earth. Note 1. The Laden R30 is not a successor to the R1, but in a sense it is more terrifying than the R1, because it was used to blow up the Golden Bridge. Yes, it was this thing that turned the Golden Bridge that Kiyi was rubbing on the ground into a gorgeous firework. Chapter 362. To level reversal. 7 with mixed feelings. Loki Odinson, aren't you worried about the marathon? Why, you don't say anything when you see that humans have such powerful weapons. Ace, the premise of the marathon is endless military alert. Brother Seven's worries at that time were not redundant, because humans at that time could not master weapons of the level of R1, but they can now. Thanos, what you mean is that the humans in the show have a strong enough heart to master such powerful weapons? Ace, yes, that's right. The reason why Brother 7 had such concerns was that humans did not have a heart that matched that powerful force, but now, I have seen the hearts of humans in that world, and their hearts are strong enough to control this power. The limitations of meteor technology are the best proof. Agwang, we have never said that we would not allow humans to develop technology. We are just worried that too powerful a force will cause unnecessary harm to humans and other peaceful lives in the universe. Peter Parker, giving up power is not an option, because we all need power to protect ourselves. It is also not an option to pursue power blindly. Too much power will hurt ourselves and others, so we need a degree, a suitable degree, and a heart that can control power. Bruce Wayne, a person who has great power, but cannot control it will be a beast that endangers the entire world. If he can master this powerful power, he will be the most solid barrier in this world. The video continues. Long looked at the body of Dynasm, whose head was shot by 2 Specium missiles, and muttered to himself, "Did you see it? Captain Serizawa, this is the guys you entrusted to me." Long wanted to tell Captain Serizawa, who was nowhere to be found, that their guys already had the strength to fight against monsters, and that guys could rely on their own strength to protect the Earth and defeat monsters. In the Phoenix nest of the guy's base, Assistant Officer Toriyama celebrated this great victory with excitement. This was a human being who easily defeated a monster with his own strength, and it was the space-slashing monster Dinazam that almost destroyed the former guys. Toriyama and Meru were still calling, but on the other side, Teppei found that something was wrong with Dinazam's body. Dinazam's polarity is reversing. The Dinazam on the screen really reversed. Its body turned upside down, and 2 new heads grew out of its buttocks. True reversal. The ganglion at the tip of Dinazam's tail is expanding, forming a new brainstem. In other words, it grew 2 heads from its buttocks and then resurrected. Guys, get ready for battle. Everyone looked at the resurrected Dinazam on the screen, and the celebration party instantly turned back into a combat meeting. The smiling Toriyama also looked serious. The opponent's propulsion organ is no longer functioning. Now the Tenazum can no longer fly. The Kumagaya Dam is 30 kilometers away in its direction. We must stop it. But with 2 heads, I don't have the confidence to intercept 2 Tenazum tongues at the same time. As a superhuman with dynamic strength, George can kick out a Conan-level flaming football. Kazuma Marina has super hearing, and most importantly, she has the true teachings of that man. But facing the almost supersonic Tenazum's iron-cutting tongue attack, George and Marina have no confidence that they can intercept it. Tenazum's attack is too fast. So what? Just get rid of Tenazum. What happens to the Kumamoto Dam has nothing to do with us. When everyone is discussing a certain issue in harmony, there are always 1 or 2 basement residents who will choose to come in and interject and raise objections. Dragon, who was overwhelmed by hatred for Tenazum, also said the same words as the sword at this moment. As long as the monster is defeated, any sacrifice is worth it. Even if the Kumamoto Dam is destroyed, countless people lose their homes, or even die. Another person who is blinded by anger. Hikaru sighed. The experience of Jan and Long is similar. The most important person to them was killed by a monster. Now this monster appears in front of him. He will do anything to get revenge, even if it means the lives of countless people. You don't have to blame yourself. Constantine suddenly said, in the final analysis, this is what will happen in the future. Besides, the root of all this is Bogaroo. You are just a person who is blinded by anger and hatred. You said it yourself, Ultraman is not a god, but just one of the countless living beings. In this case, people will make mistakes, and Ultraman is no exception. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Giant should be resurrected, don't have too much psychological pressure. Besides, are those sons of bitches definitely right? Hikaru smiled slightly, his eyes were still clear, and the haze had never covered the sky in his heart. I'm now very grateful to the screening room for letting me see the future, and avoid making so many mistakes. Although the sword was blinded by anger and hatred at that time, this is not an excuse for it. Hikari said seriously, wrong is wrong. Emotions or anything else are not umbrellas that can be used to get away after committing a crime. If you do something wrong, you should be responsible for it. The mistakes you made have caused harm to others. Can a light word turn the page? It is difficult to admit mistakes, but if you don't even have the courage to admit mistakes and face them, what is the difference between you and a coward? The video continues. Long, you are wrong. The first person who came out to interrupt Long was none other than the future, who had always regarded Long as a mentor. What did you say? You are now the same as the sword dominated by hatred for Bogaroo. The purpose of our battle is not like this. The meaning of fighting is not hatred. Didn't Long say it? In order to protect more lives, we have us, and Guys has us. Captain Sakumu nodded and began to ask about the production plan. He knew that it was time for him to appear and give that stubborn donkey a way out. And the battle plan is Capsule Monster, Kingdom of Light. Looking at you in them appearing on the screen, Seven subconsciously touched the monster capsule in his pocket. I thought, I didn't leave the capsule monster to the Earthlings. How did they make this thing? At this moment, Seven was like an old father with mixed feelings. He watched his child grow up and surpass himself. Although he was a little unwilling, he was more happy and silently blessed his child. Don't read the book review. Angry. Chapter 363. The stubborn donkeys surrender in the strange situation on Loki's side. On the Phoenix, Long contacted the future through the communication system. Future. Long. Sorry, you are right. Long. We must defeat Denism, protect the Kumamoto Dam, and protect those who need our protection. The future is so happy that her face is full of flowers, and she quickly said, leave it to me. Ah, not to you, but to you Yingdom. Future's daily self-destruction point JPG. The battle begins. Uncle Wang, Uncle Wang, Uncle Wang, Uncle Wang. Yu Yingdom was summoned and used laser shooting. The pale yellow laser collided with Denism's tongue, and behind Denism, the Phoenix activated the meteor technology and faced Denism with full firepower. Facing Denism's back light bullet, Long used another effect of the Transcendence technology, Phantom Flight. A pale golden light appeared on the Phoenix. The Phoenix dodged all the light bullet attacks with an incredible trajectory, leaving behind phantoms that prevented the light bullets released by Denism from hitting the target. Long has a bad temper and is arrogant and wants to save face, but in terms of flying skills, he is the master second only to Captain Sakumu in the entire Guys. Phantom flying was played out in Long's hands. In front of him, there was the Uangdom laser facing his face, and in the back, the Phoenix was firing at full power, with dual cores and dual threads. Denism was hit, and his two heads were dazed. Specium missiles, fire. This time, a full 4 Specium missiles were fired, but the expected violent explosion on Denism did not appear. Denism, which had been strengthened by two heads, used its other tongue to completely blow up the 4 Specium missiles. At this moment, the time for the Phoenix's Transcendence technology was up, and the time for Ruangdom was also up, and it disappeared instantly. Because of the time limit of the meteor technology, Guys' plan to eliminate Denism failed. Future saw this, and knew that it was time for him to take action. Mebius, I have a question. The river god suddenly raised his hand to speak. Facing this magical creature that didn't know how to differentiate, even the screening room gave enough face and paused the video. Why didn't Mebius come out and blow up the monster directly? That monster is so scary, it scared the baby to death. Ace, because humans can only grow up through their own efforts. Ace, we have not given up protecting the earth for so many years, because humans have never given up on themselves. This has happened countless times. Even our ultra warriors have fallen, but humans still haven't given up. So we will come out to help humans when humans have tried their best, but still can't do anything. Ace, we are not waiting for humans to fail to gain their respect. We just want humans to grow up on their own. River God, so that's the case. I thought it was the same as ours. Bruce Wayne, what's going on over there? River God, well, anyway, gods won't act easily. Sometimes they'll bring disasters to humans. Anyway, it's all for people to believe in gods better. Peter Parker, is this true? River God, I guess so. I'm not sure. Peter Parker, what about you? River God, me. I'm just a little river god. Loki Odinson, haha, see. This is what gods are. Asgard. Loki is still in jail. He can't remember how long he's been there. Anyway, it's pretty comfortable to live here. There's everything you want. Even if you really want to get out, it's not difficult. I've seen the dungeon design in the Asgard Royal Secret History. This thing, as long as you know how it's designed, it's easy for Loki to crack it. But Loki is waiting for an opportunity to make himself a hero of Asgard. Wait, what's that sound? Holy Lord, haha, too bad, too low. Holy Lord, you actually have to use this method to make humans believe in you. The real strong will instinctively attract the weak to come to you. When I just said I wanted slaves, countless races rushed to be my slaves. River God, wow, you are so powerful. The Holy Lord saw the River God's soft speech, and for some reason he suddenly lost interest. The video continues. As soon as Mebius appeared, he attracted a lot of hatred from Dinism. Dinism threw out his tongue that could cut iron like mud. The tongue was waving like a long whip. The surrounding hills, railroad tracks, and bridges were all cut in half when they were cut by Dinism's tongue. When Mebius narrowly avoided a wave of Dinism's attacks, Long drove the Phoenix, which had removed the meteor technology, and fired a laser at Dinism. The laser exploded huge sparks on Dinism's body. This thing is not photon rejuvenation. Now, after hearing the dragon's voice, Mebius took a step forward and aimed a set of Ultraman's boxing at Dinism. However, Dinism's two heads were too big an advantage. Dinism's tongue could reach up to 10,000 meters in length, but its diameter was only 1 angstrom, and its speed could reach supersonic speed. This terrifying speed, the thickness of which was almost invisible to the naked eye, was difficult to identify even with Mebius's Ultraman vision. After Dinism knocked Mebius to the ground, it did not pursue the victory, but turned around and used its tongue to hit the Phoenix. The Phoenix's solidity could ensure that it would not be split in half by Dinism's tongue, but the Phoenix's engine was destroyed by Dinism, and it was shut down on the spot. Just as the Phoenix was about to fall, a blue light suddenly lit up. Golden angular light first appeared in the original place, and then accompanied by crystals flying like Abbo's life form, a blue giant took over the Phoenix that was about to crash. Captain Serizawa. Although Long had never seen this giant, he instinctively felt that this was his Captain Serizawa. Before, a man in black appeared on the surrounding cliffs. That was Serizawa. Before, in the light space of Om. Facing the lying sword, Om broke the armor of vengeance that had dispersed endless resentment, and a ray of light poured into the energy indicator light on Hikari's chest. Hikari Ultraman, resurrected. And because the armor of vengeance was broken, Hikari's resurrection also dispelled the haze in his heart. The once gentle scientist returned again, and Serizawa's consciousness was also liberated. Hikari and Serizawa depended on each other, and truly achieved one heart and one body. Long and I are quite similar, always arrogant. When I apologized to my friend, I specifically called him to a place where no one was around to apologize. By the way, according to the opinions of the group members, some changes have been made. You can look forward to what I write today. Yes, what I write today will be posted the day after tomorrow. Chapter 364, Zamshur is coming. Captain Serizawa. Looking at the beautiful face outside the cockpit, Long knew that the captain he loved was back again. Ultra pickup point JPG Hikari put down the Phoenix and rushed to Dinism with Mebius. Hikari used his body as a shield to block Dinism's attack. Mebius took the opportunity to launch a sword beam and instantly cut off Dinism's two tongues. This thing is sharp, but it doesn't seem to be very hard. the two Austrians joined forces to fight against the mutated denizen. After the scientist Hikari removed the armor of revenge, his original combat experience and strength were not removed, so he is now the most capable scientist in the Kingdom of Light. After fighting for a while, Xiaomeng's red light was on, but Hikari's red light was not on. Xiaomeng and Hikari double core and double line, punching and kicking denizen, and finally joined forces to hit denizen dozens of meters away with a heavy punch. The two Ultras looked at each other, and their hands overlapped the cross. The Ultra Ray and the Mebius Ray were launched at the same time. Two rays, one blue and one red, hit the body of the denizen directly. Amid the cheers of the crowd, the denizen exploded on the spot. Hikari and the dragon on the cliff looked at each other for a moment, turned around and flew away. Dusk. Serizawa, who had regained consciousness, and Mirai stood under the setting sun. Serizawa told Mirai that his consciousness was restored with the shattering of the armor of vengeance. Because his original life had been exhausted, he was now completely integrated with Hikari. He would continue to live as a Blue Ultra warrior. Mirai invited Serizawa to return to the dragon, but Serizawa refused. He was already a dead man. Now that the dragon had Mebius by his side, he was relieved. The scene changed, and at this moment, they suddenly came to the atmosphere. An alien with a golden hair and a rapier in his hand was fighting with an alien in armor. But at this moment, the companion of the blonde alien suddenly threw out a chain and attacked. This is the notorious magma in the universe. The famous L77 blood case was committed by their clan. Seeing this, the armored alien was not panicked and mocked, dueling with two people. This is not common. From Magma's facial expression, it can be seen that he is under a lot of pressure now. The opponent is the famous swordsman in the universe Zamsha. Holding the sword Xing's Hanwen, he has made a great name in the universe. This is the Oshma Comet. The configuration of a Red Bull aircraft per capita for civil servants in the Kingdom of Light is not common in the universe. Many wanderers use comets as trains to travel between different planets. Use comets as trains. Seeing the three cosmic people who not only took the comet's ride, but also fought on the car without any sense of public morality, it should be common for everyone to be accustomed to it, but this kind of operation still makes them a little uncomfortable. This vitality is too strong. Zamsha fought two troops alone, and was not at a disadvantage. He even prepared to hang up the two Magna people and beat them. The two Magna people wanted to use dirty tricks when they saw that they could not win, but Zamsha noticed and killed one of them with one sword. The other Magna person revealed an important information to Zamsha. Because of their direct fight, Comet Oshma changed its orbit and was about to hit the Earth. On the Earth, the guys members who were usually very busy had a rare free time, so they gathered together to prepare for a good rest. Toriyama and Meru went to practice swordsmanship. This assistant officer, who usually looked frivolous, but actually serious but extremely unreliable, was actually a master of swordsmanship. His serious face was awe-inspiring, and a set of combos actually beat Meru, a man in his prime, so hard that he couldn't fight back. You know, Toriyama is over 50 years old, and is about to retire. Long and Teppei were playing chess together. Long didn't look like a senior at all. He played with Teppei in a vest and slippers. He didn't win a single game in a whole day. Fortunately, one of Long's few advantages is that he can afford to lose. He didn't refuse to pay when he was beaten in various ways. Instead, he continued to fight more and more bravely, and continued to fight after repeated defeats. Zioheo, Amayaki Iyomi, changed her style, took off her usual glasses, and replaced them with contact lenses, which was unanimously praised by everyone. But the peaceful time is always short-lived. The alarm from the space station broke this warm daily life. Although Comet Oshma will fall in the Pacific Ocean, the diameter of the comet is as high as 7,000 meters. It is estimated that the energy emitted is at least more than 50 million tons. What is the concept of 50 million tons? The tonnage of the Tsar bomb back then was only this much. This thing pushed the Asian continent back then. Although it is not as big as a supergiant meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs, once it falls, most countries in the world will experience a tsunami. Faced with this meteorite, the space station finally decided to use the Silver Shark Cannon to fight the enemy, the Kingdom of Light. Wow, Silver Shark Cannon, an old friend. Ace said with some surprise. I didn't expect that after so many years, the Silver Shark Cannon is still in service. Ace, if it is the Silver Shark Cannon, it won't be a problem to smash the meteorite. That is the weapon of the Earth Defense Force TAC team where I am. It defeated a monster with just one shot. Ace, the Flame Ultra Beast Famans was extremely powerful at that time. Even I was no match for it. In the end, it was killed instantly by the Silver Shark Cannon. The video continues on the comet. Zamsha killed another Magna with a sword, and then faced the firing Silver Shark Cannon, raised his hand, and blocked the light emitted by the cannon with a sword, and the rebounded light blew up the Silver Shark Cannon satellite, and the Oshma comet under Zamsha's feet was transformed into an asteroid group, and dense meteorites flew towards the Earth. On the meteorite group, Zamsha held a sword in one hand, and looked at the planet, that was getting closer and closer, the Earth. He heard from the Vantan star that the sword was on the Earth. He wanted to fight with the sword and then kill him to prove that he was the strongest. Live room barrage. Peter Parker, isn't the Silver Shark Cannon able to kill a powerful monster in seconds? How could it be deflected by a sword? Bruce Wayne, I knew it wasn't that simple. On the meteorite behind Zamsha, an alien holding a strange weapon issued a challenge to Zamsha. Space Seaman Borky Starman. In response, Zamsha said that he was too lazy to compete with the scumbags, and he wanted to conserve his energy and prepare for the battle with Giant. Zamsha is a spaceman I like very much. The first impression was that he was very handsome, and then I was moved to tears by Zamsha. I will use Zamsha's story to connect to the ending of Xiaomeng. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, King AO, you are so polite. Come in and have a seat. JPG. For Zamsha's contempt, this guy who looks 70% like Baba expressed great dissatisfaction. The two landed on the Earth one after the other, and guys decided to use the improved version of the Silver Shark Cannon, Silver Shark G, to clean up the comet fragments. And Mirai activated the propulsion to assist the Silver Shark G in cleaning up the fragments. Report. There is another alien. Hearing the report from Mirai, the old bird was serious at this moment. You go chase the alien, we will deal with the meteorite. But, stop talking nonsense. Execute the order. Git. Mirai was stunned by this assistant officer who was usually not serious. He did not expect that this old man who lost something and begged himself, Tepi and Zioheo to help find it together would be so serious at this moment. Perhaps this is the special thing about Earthlings. Assistant Secretary Meru was also serious at this moment and immediately activated the Silver Shark G in the base. This is the highlight moment of the atmosphere group. But at this moment, the Badgie star fell into the guy's base. The base shook and the normal lights were damaged, and the emergency lights were immediately activated. In the dim light, Zioheo found the information of the visitor. One was the Space Seaman Badgie Starman, and the other one was unknown. The two giant spacemen started fencing near the guy's base at this moment, but everyone in the base wanted to curse. These two guys didn't know how to protect public property when fighting, and actually blew up a Silver Shark G. Mirai, guard the Silver Shark Cannon. Marina, Zioheo, start the backup power immediately. George, Long, prepare to shoot. The old bird quickly ordered, and the majesty was rarely reflected in this old man over 50 years old. Gig. Mirai drove the boost to fly in front of Zamsha. He wanted to communicate with the other party, at least not to hinder their actions. Faced with a hyperactive Balji, Zamsha easily blocked the opponent's attack, and then killed him with a backhand sword. However, in the process of killing Balji, one of the two Silver Shark Gs was blown up. The command room was busy, and the future negotiations with Zamsha were not smooth. Zamsha opened his mouth to hunt the Hunter Knight sword, and closed his mouth to say you get out of here, and there was no intention to communicate at all. Why do you want to fight with the sword? To prove that I'm the strongest in the universe. The Earth is facing a huge crisis. This is not the place for a duel. What this planet becomes has nothing to do with me. How can you say that? Live room barrage. Wanda, if you want to prove that you are the strongest in the universe, you have the ability to come to the Earth. You have the ability to find King AO. What's the ability to make trouble on the Earth? Ace, if it doesn't want to find the king, it can come to the Kingdom of Light. We, the 6 Ultra brothers, can accompany him to fight. Guang, if it's the king, then someone might have a Selmat. K76 King's Planet. King O, you're too polite. Come in and sit down. JPG image continues. Mirai tells Zamsha that there is no alien named Giant on Earth anymore. This is the truth, because Giant is dead, and the one who survived is Ultraman Hickory. It's impossible for the Vantan people to tell me that Giant is here. Mirai's face is full of MMP, because the reason why the Vantan people knew the information about Giant was because they told the Vantan people, big mouths kill people. And at this moment, Zamsha actually put the Star/Meru on top of the only silver shark cannon. Stop, Zamsha. Hand over the sword. Otherwise. Seeing that persuasion was fruitless, Mebius couldn't bear it anymore, and the Mebius aura on his arm burst into a light golden light like light mist. Mebius. Just as the Star/Pill was about to fall, Mebius used the Mebius blade to block Zamsha's attack. At this moment, the meteor shower was about to invade the atmosphere. Zamsha took a look and didn't care about the sword. This guy seemed to have some strength, so he used him to warm up. In front of the silver shark cannon, the two giants started a swordsman battle. Compared with Mebius, who had to guard the silver shark cannon and pay attention everywhere, Zamsha was obviously more ruthless and didn't care about anything. He was suppressing Mebius the whole time. Mebius's strength was not bad, but facing countless fights, the more experienced Zamsha, he didn't have the advantage of time, place, and people. In the end, Zamsha raised his hand and waved, and the Mebius blade responded. Although Mebius failed to defeat Zamsha, it successfully bought enough time for guys to activate the Silver Shark G to deal with the comet fragments that fell to the Earth. With the efforts of guys, the Silver Shark cannon was fully activated. Red lasers flew out and hit every piece of comet fragment accurately. Mebius was guarding beside Silver Shark G. He was not going anywhere now. He was guarding Silver Shark G here. This was the last hope of the people on Earth. Even if only a piece of comet fragment fell, it would be a natural disaster for the people on Earth and the city. Zamsha stopped attacking. He looked at the comet fragments that were constantly shattered in the sky and found that he seemed to have underestimated the strength of this group of weaklings. Then, he said to Mebius, "The sword is a blue body, you are not a sword." Mebius nodded at this moment and took back the Mebius blade. "You are too weak, you can't be a sword." "Mebius, you look stupid when you say that." At this moment, Captain Serizawa, who was watching the battle, silently pressed down the Knight's breath. The blue giant appeared behind Mebius with elegant steps accompanied by the cold blue light. The blue body is a sword. Just as Zamsha and Hickory were confronting each other, the silver shark cannon fired crazily, and the meteorites were constantly smashed into powder. This antique from the TAC team period only needs manual aiming, but its other performance is not inferior to modern technology. "Please stop. Shut up. You have no reason to fight." Faced with Mebius's obstruction and persuasion, Zamsha turned a deaf ear. He raised the star-slashing pill and said to Hickory, "Let me prove to you who is the strongest in the universe." Hickory wanted to explain that he was just a scientist, but after thinking about it, facing this kind of martial arts madman who was full of fighting like himself in the Hunter Knight sword state, it would be more convincing to beat him up. The duel was about to begin here, while on the other side, Long and George were sweating profusely as they cleaned up the comet fragments in the sky. Mebius was very worried, but he couldn't do anything, whether it was Guys' comet fragment cleaning, or the fight between the two peerless swordsmen. Chapter 366, The Formation of the Oath. The comet is broken and cleared. If there are still comet fragments that break through the defense line and fall to the ground, then he will definitely take action. But now, it is not that time yet. The people on Earth are working hard to save their future. He is not Hibinomire now, but Mebius. It is not the time for Ultraman to take action yet, and Xiaomeng also believes in his teammates and the people on Earth. Even without Ultraman, they can still protect the Earth by themselves. And he can't intervene in the confrontation between the two peerless swordsmen. Hikari seemed to feel Xiaomeng's anxiety, and he said to Xiaomeng, "Watch quietly." The next second, the Knight's Blade, which was reborn with Hikari, came out of the sheath. This time, it is no longer the Shura blade burning with the fire of revenge, but a Knight's Blade used to protect peace, protect the world, maintain justice, and protect the weak. Guys base. The cooler is about to reach its limit. Do we still need to limit the continuous launch? Now is the crisis of the Earth. Cool it until it reaches its limit. At all costs, we must stop the meteorite group. A stern voice sounded, and it was actually the old bird. Let it run at an overload. At worst, I will buy you a new one, if it breaks down. As an assistant officer, the old bird's courage and decisiveness were fully demonstrated at the critical moment. Outside, the two peerless swordsmen took their positions, and the confrontation between masters often only took a moment. And in the sky, the largest meteorite was about to fall. Thanks to Guy's efforts, there was only one comet fragment left that was captured by gravity and was about to fall on the Earth. But if it was not broken at once, new fragments would be generated, and at this moment, the overloaded Silver Shark G was about to fail. Everyone gave the task of the final blow to George, who had dynamic vision. George's face was tense at the moment, but there was a touch of calmness in his eyes. Only when the pressure is the greatest, you can score the most beautiful goal. The target is in range. Click. George raised the sight and pulled the trigger that decided his fate. Two red rays hit the largest comet fragment, causing a huge explosion. Under the violent explosion, the two peerless swordsmen completed their first and last fight. And, the star-cutting pill was broken. Oshima comet fragments, all cleared. After Teppei said this, it seemed as if he had drained all his strength, followed by the cheers of the crowd. Very good. Great. Woohoo. Chiligwala chiligilu. A large number of documents were thrown into the sky, just like scattering flowers. George and Long, the main attackers, breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed to be just a simple pull of the trigger, but every time it was an absolute mental torture. Every time they pulled the trigger, it was a mental blow to both of them, especially George. In the last attack, if there was just a little mistake, Japan would be finished. Looking at the cheering crowd, we can't help but say, although you are happy to scatter the documents now, you will look really embarrassed when you clean up later. How is it possible? Zamksha looked at the star-slashing pill in his hand in disbelief. This is the sword that accompanied him to fight countless enemies. Why did it break? It's not me who defeated you. Your sword was broken before fighting me. Hi ex-scientist, Mebius broke your sword a long time ago. Do you really think he is weak? Why did I lose? Zamksha asked in disbelief. Why? Because Mebius has been fighting to protect something. Zamksha, can you understand? The most important person, the person you love, fights to protect the important things, and only the strength born from gentleness is a brave. Fight for, to protect what? Zamksha's chest rose and fell violently, and he swung the star-cutting Meru back fiercely. The supersonic broken blade set off a series of sonic booms, but was caught by Xiaomeng with one hand. What's your name? Mebius. Facing the morning sun, Zamksha left with the broken sword star-cutting Meru on his back. I have nothing to protect. I will use my power to become the strongest in the universe. When that time comes, I will visit this planet again, Sword, Mebius, to defeat you. Legend of Light Chapter 2 Swordsman of the Universe End Play in 10 minutes. Legend of Light Chapter 3 Formation of the Oath. Fighting to protect. The power that comes from gentleness is the brave. If that's the case, that's why Ultraman will only take action when humans can't hold on. Have you noticed something? Constantine suddenly asked. The live broadcast time seems to be getting longer and longer. Indeed. Bruce Wayne said, the number of times the content is shown each time is increasing by +1. In the first trial broadcast, there was only one Ultron destruction, but in the fourth Age of Magic, 4 stories were played: The Lord, The Battle of Father and Son, Hellblazer, Loki, the second, and WandaVision. And the 5th live broadcast will be 5 stories, and these 5 stories are all related to Ultraman. 3 have been confirmed: Chronicles of the Kingdom of Light, The Fastest and Strongest Maximum, and this one, which has just been renamed from The Legend of Gwang, the greatest swordsman in the universe. I'm just a scientist. In short, I'm the invincible one. to Legend of Light. One more thing. Strange added 3 stories, all 5 chapters. Yes, each of the 3 stories has 5 chapters. Is it a coincidence? It should be that the screening room arranged it this way. Then it seems that the days to come will be a protracted war. I finally understand why the screening room has to update so many daily necessities. If we can pause in the middle, it would be best if we can be sent back to this world to rest. See, the environment is so good, so don't be picky. I remember that the screening room seemed to have an option to apply for withdrawal. It seems that, as long as you don't want to watch it anymore, just tell the screening room, and it will teleport you out. Then are you leaving? I don't want to leave. What about you? What a coincidence. I don't want to either. Legend of Light Chapter 3 Formation of the Oath on broadcast. As soon as everyone came in, they saw the second generation Samandora fighting Mebius again. Samandora is a reptile monster similar to a lizard. Its hard skin can ignore the attack of laser bullets. It can also continuously launch missiles from its mouth and spray 1300 flames from its nose. At the same time, the skin on its head and back is hard and can regenerate quickly after being damaged. Listening to Tepper's words, everyone was very worried because Mebius had been hung up and beaten by the second generation Samandora for a minute. Suddenly, the scientist appeared. Wash your socks. The knight's blade was unsheathed and killed the second generation Samandora with one sword. In the guy's base, everyone looked at Ikari with admiration and then successfully stepped on the minefield of Long. Long went out with an unhappy look on his face. The next day, Samandora, who was knocked down yesterday, appeared again. Samandora can be resurrected through the birth of cell pieces. The previous Samandora was defeated only after being completely destroyed by Ultraman Eddie along with the cells. What should we do then? The old bird, who can be handsome, but can only be handsome for one episode, now returns to the form of a retired uncle. If there is no Ultra Warrior, there is no way to defeat that guy. How is it possible? Long, who was still sulking yesterday, now walked over with full energy and said, "The earth must be protected by our human hands." Assistant, it is our old predecessor who left this sentence. Without Ultra Warriors, it is impossible to defeat monsters. In this case, even if you die in battle, you can't say it. This time, Long's words, the stubborn donkey, rarely received unanimous approval from everyone. Yes, if everything depends on Ultra Warriors, then what should their humans work hard for, and what do they need their guys for? The old bird was stunned by this classic wave of subjugation, and could only try to find a little bit of the dignity of the assistant officer from the secretary Meru beside him. Captain Sakumu knew that Long had a countermeasure. Guys, Sally go. Gig. The Specium warhead has the same power as the beam used by the Ultra Warriors before. Use continuous fire to burn all its cells. Got it. You are going to protect the earth. Mirai, yes, with our own hands. Ryu, if you don't kill a monster with one shot, I will never forgive you. Marina, go ahead, friend. George, the transcendental technology is released. The spiral barrier attracts Samandora's attack. The Blinger fan stuns and controls, and the last 2 Specium missiles kill Samandora. However, the opponent's strength is still beyond everyone's expectations, and Ryu's tactics did not succeed. Seeing this, Serizawa wanted to transform and fight, but was stopped by Ryu. This is our battle. It's not time for the Ultra Warriors to appear yet. This is what you taught me. Only when we fight to the limit, the Ultra Warriors will appear. No, we guys haven't fought to the limit yet. At this moment, everyone in guys seemed to be linked together by an invisible bond. Captain Sakumu knew that this team had been formed. The time for surpassing technology is almost up. No, their battle has just begun. Captain Sakumu looked at the screen and said, the real battle is still at the back door. But, surpassing technology, there is a way. Teppei found a formation invented by a team member named Yato Takashi in the UGM database to deal with Samandora, the Yamato formation. The scene of Captain Serizawa teaching him the Yamato formation once again appeared in Long's mind. Long took a deep breath and said, future. I give you my life and my future. Gig. Aguan. You make me look like an outsider. Long flew quickly, pulled the joystick in front of Samandora and took off. When Samandora looked up, the future behind him drove the flying wing and used laser beams to hit Samandora's organ that secreted the regeneration enzyme. Now Samandora no longer had the ability to regenerate. Long nodded to Hikari as he flew over him. Hikari knew it was his turn. Knight's blade, unsheathed. The attack with most of the energy split Samandora into two and exploded on the spot. Hikari, who had solved Samandora, pulled Mebius into the consciousness space. I'm leaving. Huh? Why? Zofie said so. After solving Samandora for the first time, Zofie pulled Hikari into the consciousness space. It's alright, Hikari. Zofie stood on a high place and told Hikari, go back to the land of light. Zofie, come back. After Bogaroo died, monsters are still appearing. I can't just sit back and watch. Please. You are the same as my Ododo. Zofie said helplessly, you have consumed too much energy when you became the Hunter Knight Sword. In addition, you often assist Mebius in fighting. Your body has been broken. You should feel that this time facing Samandora, it seems easy on the surface, but in fact you are already a little overwhelmed. For the last time, after destroying Samandora, you will immediately return to the land of light. This is an order issued jointly by the captain of the Space Guard and the captain of the Space Guard. Screening room. Hikari smiled helplessly. Zofie, this guy, knew that he couldn't suppress me, and even moved out Captain Kane. In Hikari's consciousness space, Hikari said his final goodbye to Mebius. Hikari looked at the Night Soarer on his wrist. This was the strongest weapon given to him by the King of Ultra. If he hadn't had this weapon, he wouldn't have been able to kill Bogaroo. After going through so many things together, he had a deep affection for the Night Soarer. Night Teleport. Hikari transferred the Night Soarer to Mebius in the form of light particle energy. The Night Soarer and Mebius Soarer merged into one, forming the Mebius Night Soarer. However, no matter how deep it was, it couldn't compare to Mebius, who was like a brother. Now he had received Zofie's order to return to the M78 Nebula, leaving Mebius alone on Earth. He was a little worried. With a thought, the Night Soarer turned into a ray of light and flew to Mebius' wrist, merging with his Mebius aura. It will definitely become a necessity in the next battle. The next battle? Well, it's great to meet you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here now. Take care, Mebius. On Earth, Sarazor also said goodbye to Long. You've become very strong, Long. Guys and Mebius, I'm counting on you. Captain Sarazor turned into a beam of light and flew out of the Earth. Looking at this planet that exuded a dreamy blue, Hikari was very reluctant to leave. After this period of experience, he had deeply fallen in love with this planet, just like he had fallen in love with planet Abba before. Now, just as King O'Neill said, he truly understood the meaning of the word Ultraman. Now he is also proud to have the title of Ultraman. Hikari took a deep look at the Earth and the members of Guys for the last time. Hikari turned and left, flying towards the M78 Nebula with the background sound of the Ultra Oath recited by Long and the other members of Guys. Legend of Light Chapter 3 Formation of the Oath. And now, as you requested, you will have a day off. During this time, you can freely enter and exit your original world in the screening room. Of course, you are not allowed to visit, but you can bring some special products from the screening room back. I originally wanted to finish this chapter within 3,000 words, but ended up writing more than 4,000 words. But compared to the previous chapters, it's already fast enough. Chapter 367, Illusionary Ice Prison Realm. Dark Elves attack. Asgard. Foolish Dark Elves, this is the biggest mistake you have made in your life. No other. An ice cone with terrifying magic power hit a Dark Elf soldier, piercing his chest and then exploding on the spot. Several Dark Elf soldiers around were blown away by the ice explosion. Loki, I never thought that I would fight side by side with you again. Volstagg, a bearded burly man, stood in front of Loki with a giant sword and shield, helping Loki block a wave of Dark Elf particle gun attacks. I don't want to fight with you. Loki was surrounded by the three warriors of Asgard, Fandral, Hagen, and Volstagg. That's right, just when Loki was watching the live broadcast, the Dark Elf invasion finally began. Loki didn't care about the live broadcast this time, and directly opened the cage and rushed out. Before leaving, Loki did not forget to recruit a wave of mercenaries for himself, that is, other prisoners imprisoned in the dungeon. He told others that, as long as they helped, they would definitely get a reduced sentence. If Loki announced that he was exempted from the crime, the prisoners might not believe it, but if he reduced the sentence, it would be much more reasonable. In addition, Loki was originally the Little Prince, and the so-called unlimited sentence and house arrest in the dungeon were actually a vacation. The other prisoners saw with their own eyes that Loki had everything he wanted, and now he ran out of the dungeon directly. This can explain a lot of things in disguise. Besides, who is Loki? He is the god of trickery. With his broken mouth, he can make the living dead and the dead alive, and even fool a long-distance runner into a cripple. Loki fooled and successfully pulled a group of prisoners to serve as mercenaries, at least to serve as a meat shield for himself. Then Loki fooled the group of Asgardian guards guarding the dungeon, under the reason that Asad was in danger, and I had to go save my mother. The dungeon guards joined Loki's team. In this way, Loki's guards, led by the dungeon prisoners, were born. A large number of miscellaneous troops rushed out, picked up the weapons of the Asgardian guards and Dark Elves on the road, and fought with the Dark Elves under the leadership of Loki, suffering heavy losses. Then they met the 3 Asgardian warriors who led the troops. When they met, the Asgardian guards and the 3 Asgardian warriors saw the miscellaneous guards led by Loki and Loki himself, and instantly believed that Loki was the root of the turmoil. The hot-tempered Valstag immediately wanted to take Loki down to defend the king. Fortunately, the Asgardians are all hot-tempered and reckless. The biggest advantage of recklessness is that their brain circuits are simpler. When Loki and them joined forces to deal with a team of Dark Elves, and then explained to them, they immediately identified Loki as a friendly army. Yes, the reckless worldview is so simple. Of course, Loki's words are indispensable. This is all for my mother. It has nothing to do with Thor and you. Don't be self-indulgent. Reasonable. Very reasonable. Ice. Heed my command. The fierce cold wind blew, and the Dark Elves on the opposite side were immediately put on a slow-moving debuff. The taciturn Hogun smashed a Dark Elf with a meteor hammer. Valstag picked up the giant sword and rushed into the Dark Elves to open the invincibility, and Fandral chopped off the head of a Dark Elf with a long sword. The Asgard guards advanced in front with Asgard shields and spears, while Loki's miscellaneous dungeon guards were shooting from behind with weapons that were pieced together. You idiots, don't run out of my territory. A magical bracelet on Loki's left hand was emitting magical healing rays, healing everyone's injuries. The place is frozen by Loki's cold wind and restoring everyone's physical strength. For Asgard, Volstagg picked up the giant sword and killed a huge Dark Elf. When Loki saw the Dark Elf, he secretly said that it was not good. Sure enough, Volstagg was knocked back the next second. Everyone be careful. That's the Dark Elf's special soldier, the Curse Warrior. That's right, this giant is the Dark Elf's special soldier who gained powerful strength by burning his own life, the Curse Warrior. Loki has seen this powerful monster in the Asgard Royal secret history that he got from the screening room. This powerful monster has extremely terrifying strength and can even compete with Thor. When his grandfather Bol fought against the Dark Elves, the other side had thousands of Curse Warriors. When Volstagg was beaten back, the Asgard guards consciously formed a battle formation around the Curse Warrior and surrounded him. Seeing this, the Curse Warrior knew that he was going to die. According to the records of the tribe, 4 elite Asgard soldiers could work together to deal with the Curse Warrior. Now there must be at least dozens of them in the team in front of him. Looking at the other side's elite equipment, shining with gold, it is obviously high-level stuff that has been enchanted. As the royal gods of Asgard, the other side's strength is probably not inferior to the elite warriors of Asgard back then. He is going to die. With the mentality that he would not live long if he did not die, the cursed warrior launched a desperate charge, thinking that he would take 2 people with him even if he died, and he charged in one direction. That direction was exactly Loki's direction. Ha! The royal guards raised their shields and held their spears horizontally. The next second, they were knocked over. Several extremely sharp spears pierced the bodies of the cursed warriors. This level of injury actually had no effect on him, but it made him doubt that the strength of these guys seemed to be different from what he expected. Loki saw the cursed warriors rushing over with a face full of MMP, and the miscellaneous dungeon soldiers around him had already run away, leaving only a few dungeon guards. The cursed warrior aimed a punch at the Asgardian in front of him, and the terrifying force directly formed an instant vacuum. But unlike the situation expected by the cursed warrior, his punch hit a piece of ice. The next second, the ice exploded from the inside, and the ice slag with powerful kinetic energy pierced the cursed warrior's skin, and was instantly bounced off. This thing is really hard to deal with before its own life is burned out. An ice chain rose from the ground and drilled into the place where the guard spears had pierced before, causing a violent explosion in the body of the cursed warrior. Several phantoms of Loki appeared around the cursed warrior. Every attack of the cursed warrior either landed in the air or on the ice. At some point, the cursed warrior was trapped in an ice prison. Illusionary ice prison field. Loki combined his own illusions, the power of ice in his blood, and the strange power left behind by the previous nightmare demon after his death to develop a trick. Once trapped in the ice prison, not only will he be hypnotized by the cold and dreams all the time, but he must also find the real wall from countless illusions to break it. Otherwise, you will be trapped to death in it. Well done, Loki. I'll help you. Volstagg picked up his giant sword and tried to help, but Loki refused. Don't mess around. Go and protect my mother. Otherwise I won't forgive you. As the second prince of Asgard, the three warriors of Asgard looked at each other and decided to obey Loki's request. Although this guy was under house arrest, his identity as the second prince was not abolished. According to the rules, Loki now has the highest command among this group of people. I would like to apologize to my brothers in Questions browser here. I originally planned to go to the book review area of Questions browser to comment, but it turned out to be all my friends who comforted me. Thank you and my friends in Gideon for your kindness. Actually, I'm a person with a weak will. If others are a little nice to me, I feel very character leader. It's still the same these days. I won't change the plot. If Ultraman says not to change it, I won't change it. As for the person who said that all the readers have left, that's what you think. My background data is fine. Character leader. Chapter 368 A Song of Ice and Fire. I won't give up. The cursed warrior roared for the last time and was sealed by Loki in the ice, turning into an ice sculpture. When the cursed warrior completely lost his life response, Loki breathed a sigh of relief. This guy is simply a monster. No, he is a monster. Loki felt something was wrong at this moment. In the original history, the only remaining cursed warrior of the Dark Elves should have been sent directly to meet up with the leader of the Dark Elves, Maleski, but judging from the situation, the other party either took the wrong path or had more than one cursed warrior. Thinking of this, Loki's face became even uglier. One is so difficult. What about more? And calculating the time, now is the time of Odin's sleep. Loki took a breath of cold air, as if something big had happened. Leave now and go to my father's bedroom to provide support. Loki turned around and released a healing beam to the dungeon guards who were freezing, and told them, I have a bad feeling. I'm afraid this dark elf invasion is not that simple. Yes. After giving orders to the dungeon guards, Loki turned around and went to the royal treasury of Asgard. The situation was unclear now, and he had to get some equipment to arm himself. Kill. Outside the royal treasury, the sound of killing shook the sky. The frost giants and fire giants, who were supposed to be mortal enemies, actually formed an alliance and attacked the treasury of Asgard together. Loki was numb when he saw this situation. How could he not know what was hidden in it? Exclamation mark. The icebox, the eternal fire, the treasures of the two giant tribes. If they get it, it doesn't matter whether they win or lose. Anyway, Asgard will definitely be finished. Damn it. Loki gritted his teeth and suddenly found that he could enter the screening room. At this moment, only Constantine was left in the screening room. Where are the others? Loki came over with frost all over his body and asked hurriedly. They went back. In my world, I'm the only one left. So I'm eating and drinking here for free. What's wrong with you? Constantine looked at Loki holding a staff. His whole body was covered with frost. His eyes were red, and most importantly, the fluctuation of his magic power was so great that he looked like he had just come down from the battlefield. My world, my country has been invaded by foreign enemies. Loki sat on the sofa and said helplessly, I need strength, but now, it's useless even if they are all here. Constantine said mercilessly, it's forbidden to visit the cinema. At most, you can bring back some special products from the cinema. If they are here, they can only give you some advice. If you can call a few Ultramen over to your current situation, there will be no problem. Alas, Loki could only sit on the sofa and slowly recover his magic power. Hello everyone, hey? Why are there only 2 of you? The river god came over and said, I have good news for you. Lady Nuwa gave me a leave. Loki was not interested in him and left after recovering his strength. What's wrong with him? His country was invaded by foreign enemies and now he is in a hurry to go back and kill them. Ah, it's so scary. Can you tell me the story of your world? I'm suddenly a little curious. Of course you can. Asgard Royal Treasury. The killing sounds here are still deafening, and the royal guards are almost unable to hold on. At this moment, the door of the treasury suddenly opened. A blazing light shot out from it, and a violent column of fire like a starfire swept across a large number of frost giants. Then, a terrifying cold wind whistled from the other direction of the fire giant army, freezing the fire giants on the other side into pieces of obsidian. A huge metal mecha walked out of Asgard's royal treasury. Asgard's strongest armor, the Destroyer. This thing was originally Odin's armor, and was worn by Odin, so it's okay to count it as armor. The source of the howling cold wind was Loki, who was holding the frost box, and had restored his frost giant form. The pillars of fire and the cold wind caused heavy losses to the giant army. The power of the Destroyer at this moment was far greater than that of the past, and Surtur, who was watching the battle, was stunned when he saw the Destroyer, and then cursed, Damasaja, how dare you use my eternal fire as the energy source for this pile of scrap metal. Surtur responded to the cold wind released by Loki. Loki was doing 2 things at once, controlling the Destroyer mecha to fly towards the palace to support the palace, while holding the icebox to attack the fire giant. As the highest creation of the dwarves, the Destroyer mecha still has the most basic artificial intelligence, and Loki installed the eternal fire as an energy source, so it is not a problem to deal with the cursed warrior. Although according to the power of the eternal flame, Loki himself was not sure whether the Destroyer, which had been dismantled by Thor once, could be recycled and reused after this battle. But in a war, you have to win first. Damn Asgardian. No, you are not an Asgardian. Surtur looked at Loki's iconic frost giant skin and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Damn, why did he feel like he was tricked? Loki's heart was so sharp that he immediately raised the icebox to release endless cold air and use the sound amplification technique to spread his voice throughout the battlefield. People of Jotunheim, it's time to destroy our mortal enemy. After saying that, he froze the fire giants with ice, and a boulder like hail fell into the camp of the fire giants, and then exploded on the spot, killing countless unfortunate fire giants. Arsehole. People of Muspelheim, follow me to kill. Surtur held a very short twilight sword, and faced the frost giants on the side. Surtur never expected that the frost giants, a group of stupid guys living in the ice and snow, would actually trap him. He wanted to attack the treasury of Asgard, then take away the eternal fire directly, and take advantage of a group of frost giants fighting for the icebox, to chop them down with a sword, and then avenge the old revenge. Isn't it double the joy, to eliminate 2 enemies in one breath? But why? Why did it turn out like this? He was actually tricked, or by the frost giants he despised the most. How could these guys with only ice in their minds use tricks? The frost giants on the other side were even worse. The fire giants at least had a common leader, Surtur. Then, after losing the frost giant king, the legitimate owner of Jotunheim, Laufey, the frost giants completely returned to the tribal system. This time, they were able to join forces to attack Asgard, mainly because they were tempted by a guy with the treasures of both of their clans. This is even more true for the frost giants. A group of frost giants led by tribal leaders were not united at all. All the leaders were thinking about the frost box. Whoever had this thing would be the next king of the frost giants. Originally, they planned to open the door of the Asgard treasury and start robbing directly, but now the accident came a little suddenly. The frost box was taken away, and Surtur led his army to fight against him. The fire column that attacked him before must have been Surtur's conspiracy. He must have contacted the Asgardians to exterminate them, the frost giants. Some people wanted to grab the frost box, some wanted to escape, and those who were closest to the fire giant army had already fought with the fire giants. This is a song of ice and fire. Just when the frost giants were in chaos, Loki was holding the ice box at this moment. A cold wind extinguished the lives of a group of fire giants. Loki's voice was transmitted into the ears of the frost giants along the cold wind, which cheered them up. In times of chaos, people will instinctively obey the orders of others. The originally chaotic frost giant army now marched in unison towards the fire giant. At this moment, the voice sounded again. I'm Loki, the son of the Frost King Laufey. I'm the one holding the frost box. I'm the one who controls the frost golem. I killed my father Laufey. I'm the Orthodox King of Jotun, the King of Ice. Yes, in the Frost Giant Society, if a child wants to inherit his father's throne, in addition to defeating all those who disobey after his father's death, there is a simpler way: patricide. Loki rarely said a lot of truth, and then he held the icebox and transformed into a giant more than 50 meters tall. Take a closer look. WDNMD. Why is it you again, Superman Egg-Wang? This is the ancient technology of the frost giants, the frost golem, which Loki transformed with the help of the icebox and the superpower bracelet. This thing made great contributions in the war that year, but it has been lost now. Even the frost giants didn't have anyone who could make this kind of war weapon. Loki happened to have seen the record of the frost golem in that secret history. Although there was no detailed process, it was okay to DIY a frost golem to scare people. Looking at the frost golem that suddenly appeared, Surtur was more certain that this was an outright conspiracy. Hasn't this thing been out of production for who knows how many years? It appeared on this battlefield today. If it wasn't a conspiracy, he would chop off his head and give it to Odin to roast for the fire. Loki raised his arm and called out, and the bewildered frost giant subconsciously followed the frost golem Egg-Wang to charge forward. With the power of the icebox, Egg-Wang had almost no enemy on the battlefield. Simple punches and kicks could cause huge casualties to the fire giants. Even without moving, just standing there, it could add double buffs and debuffs from both psychological and physiological aspects to the two warring parties. The frost giant saw it and thought, wow, the frost golem, the ultimate war weapon that the ancestors used to defeat the 9 realms, exaggerated, has been taken out. What can we do against the group of things on the opposite side? Looking at the legendary war weapon, I feel that my body has become bigger. It's not even an illusion, but the racial special effects of the frost giant have been activated on the battlefield, where the cold wind is howling. Frost Constitution. As a mythical creature, the frost giant has high spell resistance and physical defense. At the same time, the body size will increase under a certain degree of low temperature. After being manipulated by Loki, the environment on the field instantly dropped to dozens of degrees below zero. The icebox is a divine weapon that can freeze a planet, and the connection between Loki, who has been developed by his bloodline, and the icebox is far greater than any of his previous masters. Although there have been only a few in total. In an environment of dozens of degrees below zero, the frost giant's combat power increased dramatically, as if he had taken drugs, and his body size became much larger. He rushed towards the fire giant with the cold wind. The flame giants on the side kept cursing in their hearts. Their racial characteristics were similar to those of the frost giants, except that they had a flame constitution. Flame constitution. As mythical creatures, the flame giants have high spell resistance and physical defense, as well as a flame affinity. At the same time, their size will increase in a high temperature environment. The flame constitution has a little more characteristics than the frost constitution, but now the time and place are not here, and the only advantage of people has been worn down by Loki, the Orthodox King of Jotunheim, who suddenly appeared. The size of the flame giants has shrunk significantly. The flame giants, who were originally taller than the frost giants, have now shrunk to the height of ordinary Assaja people. Facing the frost giants with an average height of 3 meters per person and the frost golem Egg-Wang, which is dozens of meters high, they have no advantage at all. Surtur was about to retreat when he saw that the situation was not right, but he had a huge advantage. That is, the mysterious man gave him a space stone that could open a small passage to Muspelheim. Although he didn't believe it, he still left the thing behind. Now it seems there is no other way. Activating the space stone, he unexpectedly opened a portal. Surtur's face lit up. He didn't expect that this thing was real. Retreat. Surtur led his troops into the portal, and just as Loki was about to take advantage of the victory, a thunderbolt flashed across the sky, and a hammer with lightning directly blew up the head of the Hickory. Far away in the Kingdom of Light, Hickory, who was comforting Tarikia, frowned. "What's wrong, Hickory?" "Nothing. I just feel that someone is disrespecting me." Return to the battlefield. Loki crawled out of the ruins of the Hickory cursing. He used ice freeze to freeze a dog, and knew that this must be the work of his brother. Suddenly, a big hand grabbed Loki from the ice of the Hickory and asked, "Loki, what are you doing again? You idiot. I'm going to get rid of those guys in Muspelheim. Why are you messing around?" Loki raised his hand, and the ice-frozen dog and the ice box appeared in his hand at the same time. "You. What do you mean you?" Without giving Thor a chance to speak, Loki scolded Thor. "Shouldn't you be protecting your mother and your human girlfriend? Are you so free? Father is now in Odin's sleep, and the whole of Asgard has entered a state of war, and you are still here." Thor was stunned, and then hurriedly asked, "Are you telling the truth? Is your mother in danger? Wait, what happened to Jane? What?" Loki was also stunned, and asked, "Didn't you bring the woman possessed by the reality stone to Asgard?" "What reality stone?" Loki suddenly remembered that the premise for the appearance of the reality stone seemed to be the union of the 9 realms, but now it is obvious that the once in a millennium celestial phenomenon has not occurred. Why then? Loki didn't have time to think about it, but he knew something big had happened. Asgard, Jotunheim, Muspelheim, the Dark Elves, and even more people had been calculated. Damn it. How dare you do this in front of me, the god of trickery? Loki forced himself to calm down. Now he didn't know who did it, but the most urgent thing was to go and provide support. Thinking back then, before I was on the shelves, *** said that it would be better for me to go into a factory if I continued writing. I now have 5,000 subscriptions a day. Although it's just barely enough to make a living, it's better than going into a factory. Those who threaten me by losing subscriptions, especially those who threaten me on Questions browser, don't bother. I originally planned to recruit some new people, but I couldn't think of it after thinking for a long time. In the end, I gave up the idea of recruiting SpongeBob to join the group and decided to delay it for another 2 days. Chapter 369. Watching the moon at night in Gotham is such a beautiful thing. Odin's beard. Loki cursed as he walked into the screening room. It was a good place to take a break. Hasn't that mortal named Bruce Wayne come yet? What happened? My brother is just an idiot. Loki took a deep breath, sat down and slowly talked about the current situation. He couldn't care less. He needed a few external brains to help him find a solution. And Loki's external brain at this moment, Mr. Bruce Wayne, was currently "Hello, Miss Diana Prince. It's a pleasure to have dinner with you." In Wayne Manor, Bruce was meeting Diana Prince of his own world. Bruce knew too well the power of the screening room, not to mention the title of Wonder Woman. Even a terminally ill person who was helpless could instantly gain the power to destroy the earth, as long as he was lucky enough. It would be better for such a person to be supervised by himself. Note 1. And to come up with hundreds of prevention plans. Fortunately, the screening room is easygoing. I should be able to find out what the other party will draw. Now I just need to find a way to understand her current strength. I should feel honored. Not everyone can have dinner with the world's richest man. Under Alpha's operation, the two had a very pleasant dinner. "Diana, I need to know your specific situation." On the balcony, Bruce suddenly spoke up, inviting Diana to watch the moon. "By the way, can you really see the moon in this ghost place of Gotham? I'm the first batch of people to join the screening room. I have seen more dangers. The universe is huge, and all kinds of aliens may be eyeing us. We must gather enough strength to deal with future crises." Bruce said it very sincerely. Of course, how many of them are true is hard to say. Let me guess. Diana did not directly agree or refuse, but asked, "That Gotham Batman, is he just the richest man in the world?" Listening to Diana's teasing tone, Bruce did not admit or deny, but just smiled slightly. In fact, any supervillain who is a little bit clear knows the true identity of Batman, but they just don't say it. Okay. Diana reluctantly stretched out her hand and said, I'll join. Thank you for your support, Diana. What's the name of our alliance? Not yet. Okay, next time you invite me to watch the moon, you can go to Metropolis, or any other city. Gotham is famous for its terrible weather. Avengers World. Jarvis, where are they all? After Tony returned, he found that the entire building was empty, and even the sweeper he hired before was gone. Something happened in the East District, and the captain and the others went to help. Where's Uncle Lee? Did he help too? No, he quit yesterday, and said he was going to be a school bus driver for a public high school. Public high school? Don't you need a professional certificate to be a driver there? Tony said as he put on his battle suit and rushed to the scene of the accident to help. From a distance, he saw a monster made of black mucus, like a humanoid bat, wreaking havoc in the city. The Avengers, with Hulk, Thor, and Bumblebee as the main force, worked together to fight this monster. Damn it. If this continues, the name of Iron Man will be inherited by Bumblebee. 2 high-temperature missiles accurately hit the wing roots of the bat monster, successfully attracting a wave of the opponent's attention. The bat monster roared in Tony's direction, and the roar actually formed a shape-sound wave, destroying countless houses. Sir. Jarvis' voice rang out in the suit. There are signs of life in the ruins. Damn it. Tony controlled the suit to rescue people, and found a 10-year-old boy with his head exposed in a ruin. Hold on, kid. Tony flew the boy to a relatively safe place, and then searched around to make sure there were no trapped people, before going to join the captain and the others to fight the bat monster. Roar. The roar of the bat monster made everyone dizzy, and suddenly a golden light flashed, and 2 wizards came to help, Mordo and Wang. Although Mordo's worldview exploded once, out of the heart of fighting against evil, Mordo still chose to help the Avengers. As for why the Ancient One didn't come, please ask the Ancient One himself. The joining of the 2 wizards did not provide much manpower for the battle, but they brought very important information. For example, I'm Thor, the god of thunder from Asgard. Monster. Face the wrath of the god of thunder. Thor raised Thor's hammer, and suddenly the sky was covered with dark clouds, lightning and thunder. Although this monster can attack with sonic waves, it is afraid of sonic attacks. This may be the same reason as Thor's fear of electricity, actually biological toxins. In addition to the violent noise, the high temperature brought by lightning is also a heavy blow to the bat monster. Under the dazzling lightning, the bat monster slowly fell down and turned into a pool of mud. Thor looked at the fallen bat monster and always felt very familiar, as if he had beaten something very similar to this thing before. Of course, the next thing to clean up the battlefield has basically nothing to do with the Avengers, and there are naturally professionals to clean up the battlefield. Well, you guys knocked down a big bat while I was away. Tony looked at the slime bat lying dead on the ground and complained, what kind of monster is this? A cosmic vampire? Stop it, Tony, but this big guy does look like a bat. The Avengers returned to the Avengers building, and among those responsible for the aftermath, Nick Fury's face was not very good. Are you sure? Very sure. The believers have been very restless recently, and the SHIE said that the bats are migrating to New York. Damn it, May, notify Wesley Snipes to bring people to New York. The bats are going to be restless. In a small workshop in New York City, a group of men were tinkering with a bunch of messy things, and a pale-faced man walked in pushing a cart of things. In Eastern Europe, in the core room of an ancient castle, an ancient coffin shook imperceptibly, and beside the coffin, a stream of black liquid poured into it. Compared to the worlds that are either at war or invaded by alien creatures, Peter's world is obviously much warmer. Note 1. I originally wanted to write monitoring, but after some consideration I changed it. Chapter 370 next to Peter's exclusive form has not yet been named. Peter brought a bunch of snacks from the cinema, which he didn't know what brand they were but tasted great. The cinema was very considerate and packed them for Peter to take away. Peter took out these snacks and shared them with Gwen as soon as he returned to the real world. The feelings of teenagers are so simple. In the evidence storage room of the New York City Police Department, a skull that was burned so black that it was considered coal instead of bone began to shake violently. Particles within Ominosaur emerged into the bone, emitting a strange light. The skull that was about to be resurrected suddenly heard the sound from the outside world. Under the instructions of the mastermind behind the scenes, the head stopped shaking. Director George Stacy walked in with a group of people wearing special protective clothing. Yes, this is the remains of the monster in the report. The visitor carefully put it into an isolation chamber and then left quickly. In this regard, Chief George put forward his own opinion. Can't you leave the city at another time? At least take a more remote road. This thing is very evil. Chief George, we are professionals. There is no way we will have any problems. Just take care of yourself. The leader said this bluntly and then took his men and left with the isolation chamber. The mastermind looked at all this and suddenly had an interesting idea in his mind. Ha ha. Man of light. Let me see your choice. On a main thoroughfare in New York City, the car that transported the skull before, for some reason, actually drove the car to a main thoroughfare with the largest flow of people, and there was a traffic jam here. Damn it. The staff member in charge of driving cursed. Haven't these guys read the New York City traffic rules? Jack, you ask the New York City Police Department to come here to clear the traffic. Jack. Damn it. The driver turned his head and saw a big rat staring at him with his scalloped eyes. Before he could exclaim or say anything, the other party bit off the driver's head. Boom. The transport vehicle suddenly exploded, and a 3-meter tall monster emerged from it. Two-headed rat. The monster slapped a car away, and then tore another car apart casually. Looking at the people screaming inside, the two-headed rat felt great pleasure. Monster. Watch out. A light whip tightly wrapped around one of the two-headed rat's arms, and then several white spider silks flew, trying to trap the two-headed rat in place. The two-headed rat turned his head and saw a girl wearing a black and white spider suit and a boy holding a rag to cover his face tightly. The two-headed rat instinctively felt that, although the two guys couldn't see their faces clearly, they were the ones who made him so miserable last time. The two-headed rat roared to the sky, struggled to get out of the spider silk, and also made the whip-holding boy stagger. Then, it actually spit out fireballs from its two heads. After the evolution, the two-headed rat not only greatly improved all its attributes, but also gained the ability to attack from a distance. The two sides were about to fight, and the pedestrians on the road were screaming and running away, as if the end of the world was coming. At this time, the boy took out an object like a dagger from his chest. Gwen, the task of evacuating the citizens is left to you, and I will deal with this guy. You must be careful. Well, don't worry, I am. The boy held the dagger in his hand, drew the sword and swung it, and a trace of light flashed. Ultraman. Next a giant who was also 3 meters tall, with dark lava-like muscles all over his body, silver skin, a Y-shaped dark red indicator light on his chest, and an uneven face appeared. The two-headed rat was shocked. Can't you afford to play? Next was ruthless, and didn't say much. He punched the two-headed rat on one of its heads, and knocked it into the air. We can't solve the opponent here, otherwise the aftermath of the battle will be too great. Seeing this, Nexter simply let the two-headed rat wrap its tentacles around him, and he flew quickly with the two-headed rat. Peter was not sure how long he could transform, so he decided to fight quickly. So he chose a school where no one was as the battle site during the weekend. There was no other way. Flying to the suburbs was too far, and he was not sure if he would have the strength to fight, even if he flew to the suburbs. Elbow cutter. A yellow light blade appeared on Nexter's elbow and cut off the tentacles of the two-headed rat wrapped around his body, causing it to free fall. Bang! The two-headed rat fell hard on the school playground. Peter was a little happy. Physical education classes were the most annoying. Roar. X to the two heads of the two-headed rat roared with sonic waves, and Nexter on the opposite side stood still. Your version is too old and should be retired. Peter suddenly gained knowledge in his mind and knew that the two-headed rat in front of him was a monster called Alien Beast. If every cell and every particle of this monster is not destroyed, it can be reborn continuously. I was careless and let you hurt someone. Peter let out a battle cry and fought with the two-headed rat. This is my process, so this time, I won't make the same mistake. Chap. A dazzling light burst out from Nexter's body, and mysterious runes seemed to flash in the light, but the moment the rune light disappeared, a brand new Nexter appeared in the original place. Seeing this scene, even the mastermind hiding in the dark realm couldn't help but complain, although I hope you evolved quickly, isn't your progress a little too fast? The mastermind was a little worried that this guy would not really evolve directly to Noah. The uneven muscles on his body became smooth, and compared to the posture of a warrior, it was more peaceful. A circle of golden runes surrounded his hands, and there were spider web-like marks on his body. There were two blade-like objects on his head. His face seemed to be blocked by something, making it difficult to see his true appearance, and there were 8 bulges on his back. Next to Peter's exclusive form has not yet been named. Unlike the protagonist of the original theatrical version, Shunichi Maki, Peter's will has been extremely firm. After experiencing the baptism of countless videos and the teachings of the people in the screening room, his heart has already made clear the path, and he knows very well what he wants to do, that is, to use his own light to dispel the darkness and protect the light. The two-headed rat was stunned. Last time I fought with you, you had to work hard to defeat me. This time, why are you so relaxed? And why is there a star shining on my head? Sir, is this the buff you added to me? Chap. Peter's wrists touched, and violent sparks burst out. Countless runes formed around shield. Peter jumped back, crossed his hands, pulled back, and finally punched with both fists. The rune array disc flew out, and hit the two-headed rat, sealing it in it. Countless runes on the rune array lit up, and golden flames began to burn on the two-headed rat, but it couldn't even scream at this moment, and finally it could only be transformed into clean light particles, and dissipated in the air. Peter nodded, jumped for life, and flew into the air. Considering the questions raised by the friends in the group, I will explain here. The reason why Peter transformed into 3 meters tall instead of 50 meters is mainly because the two-headed rat is only that tall, and it is inconvenient to fight when it becomes 50 meters. For details, please see Avenger vs. Gomez. Moreover, a 50-meter tall giant is a bit too eye-catching. What if he accidentally demolishes the teaching building? If you want to participate in the discussion, you can join the group. 1,161,933,623. Chapter 371 Loki to the rescue. Asgard. Which, get out of the way. The Dark Elf King Maleski, holding the Dark Sword, led the elite cursed warrior Kurz to confront the Asgard Queen, the goddess of sky and earth, Frigga, in front of the secret room where Odin sleeps. Dark Elves, in the name of the sky and the earth, I order you to retreat quickly. Frigga led the dungeon guards who came to support, and the Asgard priests who were originally guarding in front of the secret room, and the Asgard royal guards blocked the door of the secret room where Odin sleeps. Maleski was tangled up. He and Kurz were really no match for each other. He had fought with the old woman on the opposite side before, and she was disarmed in 3 moves. If Kurz hadn't arrived in time, he would have been stabbed to death by Frigga. Although he had Kurz's support, Kurz, as a cursed warrior, was burning HP. As long as the opponent sent elites to hold Kurz back, some of them would be against him, and he would be chopped into meat sauce in minutes. Maleski suddenly remembered that the guy who woke him up before showed him the distribution of Asgard's troops. The Asgardians seemed to have a special force called Valkyries. Could this be a Valkyrie? The Valkyries were created by Odin. The one who fought with Maleski was Odin's father, Bor. Raw. X2 suddenly, 2 cursed warriors came with a team of dark elf archers. Maleski was overjoyed. Now he could fight. As long as he killed Odin who was sleeping, the entire 9 realms would be his world. Kill. Maleski gave an order, and the dark elves and the Asgard guards fought together. The Asgard priests chanted ancient spells, and blessings were added to the Asgard guards, which made the Asgard guards, who already had an advantage in equipment, more powerful and powerful. On the Dark Elf side, the only one who could cause effective damage to the opponent was Kurz, a well-known elite monster. The other cursed warriors were intercepted by the royal guards in groups of several people. Ordinary Dark Elves would be hung up and hammered against the Asgard guards. Only black hole grenades could have a little effect. The dark elf blasters that could tear and destroy matter at the molecular level were a joke in front of the Asgard defensive shields mass-produced by the dwarves of Nidavellir. They were useless. The dark elves were very strong. They had dark elf blasters that were said to be able to destroy everything at a distance, and cursed warriors who could compete with Thor in close combat. However, they were not effective against the Asgardians, who had huge equipment advantages, and whose soldiers were all dressed in divine clothes. Moreover, the Asgard guards were also elite. They might not be comparable to their predecessors, but they were far superior to the Earthlings. They had physical fitness that was on par with Captain America, as well as this divine suit, well-trained military discipline, and a spirit of not fearing death. This made the Asgard army the most terrifying cold weapon infantry corps. Hela was really no match for them, but wasn't it just a random killing of a dark elf? Mr. Black Dragon praised this. Molesky didn't know where he got the courage from. It might be because the current Asgard soldiers had been bullying the weak for too long and their strength had declined. Or it might be because his men were not afraid of life and death. On a dark Greenland, a terrifying existence with disheveled hair and a breath of death all over his body was watching this live broadcast. Too bad, they actually let the enemy break into Asgard. Hela looked at Asgard, where the war was raging everywhere, and expressed her dissatisfaction. If I rule Asgard, these guys will become my undead soldiers. Where is there room for resistance? Maybe because he was locked up for too long and his mind was a little unclear. Hela said some upside down words, and the person next to him was watching quietly. You release me, and I will give you everything you want. Hela said to the person next to him fiercely. The other party had the ability to ignore the seal directly, so it should not be difficult to break the seal. Of course I can release you, the other party said, but it's not time yet. Arsehole. Hela raised her hand and swung it. A dark green stone sword pierced through him. He fell down instantly and was lifeless. Dead already? Hela grabbed his body and immediately confirmed that he was really dead. A dark green magic power poured into his body, and he was resurrected as a dead soul for Hela to drive. Strange, this is just an ordinary mortal. Asgard Odin's secret room. Molesky and Frigga started fencing again. Frigga immediately felt that the other party's situation was different from before. His strength was enhanced. Molesky's body flashed with a faint red light, and his strength, speed, reaction ability and recovery ability increased greatly. With the enhanced attributes, he forcibly wiped out the gap in skills. A wave hit Molesky. The Asgard Priest group is not only good at adding buffs. Facing the curse of the Asgard Priest group, Molesky calmly activated a metal device on his body and relied on science to dispel magic. Then Molesky took out a helmet and put it on his head. An invisible mental wave was emitted, and the Asgard side was immediately covered with a mental confusion debuff. Frigga, who had the strongest mental resistance, reacted first and blocked Molesky's attack with a sword, but a hurricane came, and the cursed warrior Kurz's fist was about to hit Frigga. At this critical moment, a pillar of fire with endless destruction and starfire hit Kurz directly, and knocked him away. The Eternal Fire Destroyer, debut. Loki? The destroyer released a terrifying high-temperature flame from the visor, instantly sweeping away a group of dark elves around, and then Loki's voice came from the destroyer. Mother, it's all Thor's fault, otherwise I would have come earlier. Frigga knocked Molesky away with a sword, and her face finally relaxed a little. Molesky looked at the monster with fire all over his body, his face almost as black as that of a certain boiled egghead on Earth. It was obvious that the thing in front of him with fire all over his body was definitely not something he could deal with. He, Molesky, the king of the Dark Elves, had already killed his nemesis. How could he retreat? The main reason was that the mysterious man who woke him up told him that Odin was now in long sleep and the highest combat force of Asgard was offline. If he didn't take this opportunity to kill Odin, he would be wiped out. When Odin woke up, Molesky gritted his teeth and sent a wave of thought to the three cursed warriors. The cursed warriors who received the order roared, as if they had activated some forbidden method, and their bodies became larger again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372, Petrified Heimdall. Led by Curse, the three cursed warriors who were strengthened by the forbidden magic rushed towards the Eternal Fire Destroyer, and they braved the high temperature of the Eternal Fire to protect the opponent, and crashed into the door of Odin's secret room. That's right, as long as Odin is killed, does it matter whether he is killed by Maleski himself, or by the aftermath of the Eternal Fire explosion? Maleski's idea is still good. At least it makes Loki, who is controlling the destroyer, afraid to use the destroyer's ultimate move, Star Illumination, to solve the opponent. The destroyer's ultimate move is good in every way, but the attack method is an AoE skill. This is not Ultraman Cosmos, and the ultimate move comes with friendly injury immunity. If Loki uses Star Illumination here, he will have to add another record of killing his adoptive parents after killing his biological father. Odin may be fine, but it's hard to say for Frigga. This is the Eternal Fire. Seeing this, Maleski pulled out a black hole grenade from his pocket and planned to add fuel to the fire, but at this moment a loud thunder sounded, and with a crackling sound, a dazzling lightning with a hammer hit Maleski accurately. For Maleski, the lightning was not enough, but the broken hammer was too damn heavy. Maleski only felt that his ribs and spine were broken into powder. Although it took a little longer to treat the powder fracture of the Dark Elf, it was a battlefield now. Thor was wearing a silver scale breastplate, and the big red robe on his back moved without wind. After landing, he rushed directly to Maleski and smashed Maleski's head with a hammer. Loki, I still think I should say a few more words. It is not in line with our Asgard tradition to just smash the enemy's head. Shut up, you big fool. Go help the destroyer, it's about to explode. Loki's voice appeared in Thor's ears through astral projection. Thor didn't care too much after hearing it. He picked up Thor's hammer and went to fight with the cursed warriors. Mela is dead. In the name of Odin's son, the god of thunder, I order you to surrender quickly. Thor picked up the hammer and knocked down a cursed warrior with one hammer, while Curse put down the destroyer and said something inexplicable. We will return eventually. Outside, Loki was leading the team to subdue the frost beasts of Jotunheim. Loki really couldn't understand how the other party could achieve such a large-scale space teleportation. Even the frost giants of Jotunheim and the fire dragons of Muspelheim were teleported to Asgard. How did they do it? Loki rebuilt the Iguan with the help of the ice-frozen dog and the icebox, and then quickly killed several tribal chieftains of the frost giants, and subdued the remaining frost giants at a very fast speed. Then he led this group of frost giants to kill the city. There were a large number of frost beasts and fire dragons wreaking havoc, and even the figure of stone giants. Compared with frost giants, fire giants and dark elves, stone giants are really country bumpkins, without any advanced magic, technology, or racial talents. They are just bigger and have harder skin. They don't even have the special effect of automatically recovering health and mana when standing on the ground. Seeing this, Loki directly ordered, warriors of Jotunheim, clean up all the stone giants and the beasts of Muspelheim. Under the deterrence of Loki, the frost giants, who were already angry with Muspelheim, picked up their weapons and fought with their targets. Loki stood on the Iguang and enjoyed the feeling of being the king of the world. Loki, you bastard. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. Eve, holding a long sword, drove the frost giants madly and killed all the way to the foot of the Guang. Seeing this, Loki's legs tightened. The psychological shadow brought by this woman was infinitely strengthened by the screening room. According to Loki's experience, it is impossible to reason with angry women. They simply cannot listen to anything. So, Loki, you pathetic bug. Eve grabbed Loki and wanted to knee him to make him doubt his life, but the next second after Eve grabbed Loki, Loki's body was instantly shattered, and the surroundings turned into an extremely solid ice prison. Eve realized that she was fooled by Loki and split the wall of the ice prison with a sword to settle the score with Loki, but when she split one ice wall, she found that there was a second ice wall behind it. Split it again, and there is another. Split it again, and there is another. Endless ice prison. At this moment, Loki seemed to feel the pleasure of being an excellent wizard. The flames of war gradually died down. This large-scale battle that Asgard had never encountered in 1,000 years ended with the enemy almost wiped out. Loki, mother, am I your pride? Loki asked with a wicked smile. A trace of helplessness flashed across Frigga's kind face. She shook her head. You have always been my pride, no matter when. Good job, Loki. Thor, who had finished cleaning the battlefield, came over and gave Loki a fierce bear hug in his increasingly frightened eyes. I knew you would not let me down at the critical moment. Let go of me, the barbarian. I'm suffocating. It seems that the brothers will have a very long period of love and hate in the future. Is the father still not awake? Loki looked at Odin, who was no different from a corpse in the secret room, and couldn't help asking. Your father's sleep this time is a little abnormal. In the secret room, there were only Thor, Loki and Frigga. Frigga said, he slept too long and too soundly. Logically, it wasn't time for him to enter Odin's sleep yet. And not long after he fell asleep, the dark elves, fire giants, frost giants, stone giants and other creatures from the 9 realms joined forces to attack Asgard. There must be someone directing this. That's right. Loki nodded and said, at that time, the frost giants and the fire giants joined forces to attack the royal treasury of Asgard. Even though there were 2 artifacts, the frost box and the eternal flame, it was too strange for the 2 parties who were incompatible with ice and fire to join forces to attack, especially the frost giants. After Loki was killed by me, they were not united at all. There was no reason for them to go out together to attack Asgard with their mortal enemies, the fire giants. Loki stated what he knew. When he mentioned Loki, there was not the slightest fluctuation in his tone, as if it was not him who killed Loki with his own hands. Moreover, frost beasts and fire dragons have appeared in Asgard. There is no reason for such beasts that are dozens of meters tall to appear in the city. Even the space tunnel that I know of can barely accommodate the passage of giants. There is no possibility for such a beast to break through. And I want to know more. What is going on with Heimdall, the gatekeeper? I have sent people to the Rainbow Bridge, and we will see Heimdall soon. After a while, the door of the secret room was knocked, and outside was Hogan, who came to report the news with a look of horror. Your Majesty, Heimdall has been turned into stone. Stone. Yes, a stone statue appeared in the original position of Heimdall. Excluding other possibilities, Heimdall turning into stone is the most likely result. Heimdall turned into stone. This news is really explosive. Someone called Buddy rewarded me with 157 starting coins. This is a wave that bankrupted everyone. Chapter 373, The Returning Crowd. Everyone, how was your rest? Very good. Bruce said, I had a very pleasant night. Mr. Hickory, look. Peter no longer had to pretend to be mature. He took out the trust evolver, drew his sword, and Nexter, who was the same height as Peter, appeared in the theater. Is this Ultraman? Yes. Peter nodded and said, this is Next. Ultraman Next. Not bad, kid. Tony came close to Peter and looked carefully at the muscle-like patterns on Next's body and said, I didn't expect that you actually transformed. I have never been able to figure out the transformation theory between Ultraman. Your appearance just allows me to study it. This light is different from ours. Hickory looked at the light on Peter's body and said, it is not the same type as the light emitted by the plasma spark tower, but it is purer, but it seems to have something else in it. This power is very similar to that of Strange. Strange? Mr. Strange? Ah. Strange, who looked a little dazed, quickly responded, very similar to my power. You mean magical power? I don't think the power in my body is that simple. Before I awakened, I was fighting with a two-headed rat and accidentally triggered a magic. I remember the spell was, in the ancient body of Hogs, in the ancient name of Osh-2, Agamotto, listen to me, Vishanti, grant me fire. I actually said it. Peter said with some surprise, although I remember the spell, every time I try to recite the spell in my world, I will be stopped by an invisible force, and then I instinctively forget about it. It seems that I can only recite the spell without obstacles when I come to the screening room. Could it be the repulsion of light and magic? Strange guessed a possibility. Magic is not something that can be used casually. To put it bluntly, this thing is a kind of usury. We have to borrow power from Vishanti to use white magic, but there is light in your body. The power of light allows you not to borrow power from Vishanti, but if you want to use white magic, you must get Vishanti's approval, so both sides are repulsive. If that's the case, Peter once again used his evolutionary form. Look at the halo on my wrist. I don't know what the runes inside mean, but the skills I released obviously mobilize the rune power in the halo. Everyone came up to study for a long time, and finally Strange said, "Sorry, Kit, this thing is even beyond my cognition." The power of light and magic combined with each other, and finally created a form that I don't know what it is. Strange asked, "Hickory, what do you think?" "I don't think so." Hickory waved his hands, with a clear intention of opening the way. "Peter's light is not the same as that of Ultraman in our kingdom of light, but I can feel the purity and warmth of the light from it. What I can ensure is that Peter will not get into trouble. That's enough. Okay, everyone, finish the work that was not done before." Legend of Light Chapter 4 Trial of the Braveheart. What is that? Hickory, who was flying quickly in the deep space of the universe, suddenly saw some green UFOs, a large group of densely packed, large in number, and the direction they were flying was exactly the direction of the Earth. Originally, he just wanted to go back to the city to replenish his status, but when he saw this scene, Hickory stopped immediately. These green UFOs, Impreza, caught his attention. Hickory observed these green UFOs to see if they would cause any harm to the Earth and humans. While observing, he suddenly sensed a huge crisis coming from behind. This was the sixth sense he developed from fighting monsters for a long time. He turned around and saw a huge bird-like monster flying from the deep space of the universe. Kai. The opponent made a sharp bird cry. Although the vacuum did not transmit sound, the opponent's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, the opponent had already flown close. Fortunately, Hickory was experienced in combat and narrowly avoided the opponent's collision. Seeing that it did not succeed, the bird-shaped monster continued to collide several times, but Hickory dodged them all. This time, the bird-shaped monster did not continue to attack, but stopped in the void, looking at the enemy in front of it with sharp eyes. Hickory also got a chance to catch his breath. Only then did he have time to carefully observe this bird-shaped monster. He had a bird-like head. On his head, his hands had very sharp yellow-green claws, flashing with sharp cold light. At first glance, it was a very powerful attack organ. There was also a pentagonal organ in his abdomen. This was his energy absorber. He could use the energy absorber in his abdomen to absorb other types of energy. This is the space monster, Bemonston. It's Bemonston. In the screening room, Hickory was shocked. If he hadn't been calculated by someone, then his luck was really bad. He could actually meet Bemonston when he returned home. Ace, this is a real strong enemy. Did you see the pentagonal organ on Bemonston's stomach? That's the part it uses to eat. Ace, Brother Jack fought Bemonston hard but couldn't win. In the end, it was Brother 7 who gave Brother Jack the super bracelet to defeat Bemonston. Tony Stark, super bracelet. I remember Bambi has one too. At LOKI audience and Loki didn't reply. Constantine, I forgot all about it. Constantine, Loki seems to be at war, and he came here to ask for help before. Hikaru, how could you forget such an important thing? You weren't there at the time. Constantine said without any guilt on his face. I was going to tell you later, but then I was a little confused when chatting with the river god, so I forgot. Don't let anything happen again. Peter was a little worried. After all, they have known each other for a long time. Although Loki is always being criticized, Peter thinks that it's just his bad mouth, not a crime worthy of death. How about ing him for a while? Walk. The live broadcast room began to go crazy at ing Loki. 3 minutes later, Wanda, that annoying guy's not really dead, right? If he's not dead, come out and talk to him. Loki Odinson, damn girl. You're the one who died. I curse you to lose all your hair. Logan, you finally came out. What's going on? I heard there's a war over there. Loki Odinson, let's talk later. Guang, this word always feels ominous. Bruce Wayne, then let's watch it first. Logan. Today I learned how to fight Anne. The pronunciation of these two things is really unexpected. Chapter 374 Bemonston, here I come. The video continues. Hickory immediately recognized the origin of this monster. He had only heard that this monster was very powerful before, but he didn't expect to meet one now, and it attacked him as soon as they met. It seems that today will not end peacefully. The biggest advantage of fighting in outer space is that it can maximize the mobility and energy recovery of Ultra Warriors. Hikari gently turned around to avoid Benenston's repeated special attacks of the Divine Bird. While Benenston stopped, Hikari concentrated energy and wiped it on his left wrist, wanting to activate the Knight's aura and release the Knight's blade. During the years when he became the Hunter Knight Sword, he started countless battles with this posture. This has become Hikari's instinct. The golden ridge only flashed by, and the Knight's blade did not activate. Hikari looked at his empty wrist and remembered that he had given the Knight's aura to Mebius. Do you care? Even without the Knight's aura, I will fight to the last moment. Hikari's eyes burned with endless fighting spirit. At this time, the monster yelled and rushed up again, and the sharp horns on his head also fired a shooting light bullet at a very fast speed. Hikari rolled over to avoid the opponent's attack and passed by Bimonston. Then he chased closely and launched a counter-attack. The original prey became the hunter. Bimonston was very fast. When it found that it seemed to have offended the wrong person, it wanted to get rid of Hikari quickly, but Hikari chased very closely. Seeing that the guy behind him was getting closer and closer, Bimonston didn't get into an asteroid belt until he got into it. Relying on the cover of the asteroid belt, he slightly pulled away from Hikari and then immediately fired a shooting light bullet from the sharp horns on his head. Hikari was well prepared. Not only did he avoid the opponent's shooting light bullet, he also took the opportunity to rush up and kick Bimonston, kicking him hundreds of meters away. Bimonston screamed, quickly controlled his body, and tried to escape again. During the chase, Bimonston hid behind an asteroid. This is an asteroid belt with many asteroids of different sizes. Some are very small, with a diameter of only a few meters, and some are hundreds of meters in diameter. Hiding behind such an asteroid, Hikari really couldn't find the other party for a while. For a while, Hikari lost the trace of the other party. Just when Hikari was looking for the other party, Bimonston screamed, rushed down from above Hikari, and attacked fiercely, hitting Hikari hard. Hikari endured the severe pain. First whipped Bimonston hard with a whip kick, then hugged Bimonston's head with one hand, and clenched the other hand into a fist and kept hammering. As a result, after a few punches, the sharp corner on Bimonston's head fired a shooting light bullet at close range. At such a close distance, Hikari couldn't hide, and was hit by Bimonston for thousands of meters. Hikari stabilized his body, and rushed over again, to fight with the opponent. He found that he was at a disadvantage in the space, because he did not have an instant long-range attack, while the opponent had a shooting light bullet. This was very disadvantageous for him. He had to fight in close combat on the ground. Thinking of this, he kept dodging the opponent's attacks, and kept getting closer to the opponent. Finally, he seized an opportunity, and hugged Bimonston tightly, and then crashed into the surface of the nearest planet. Hikari hugged Bimonston, and crashed directly from the space to the surface of the planet, smashing a big hole. The planetary material was ejected thousands of meters high. The two of them hugged each other and fought each other. Hikari originally thought that he might have the upper hand in close combat, but after the fight, he found that Bimonston was also very strong in close combat. The yellow-green hook on Bimonston's hand was extremely sharp. No matter how hard the material was, it would break with a poke. The power was also surprisingly large. He directly lifted up a hill several dozen meters high and smashed it towards Hikari. Add to that the shooting light bullets Bimonston occasionally fired, and these added up to a very strong fighting power. Although Hikari had rich combat experience, after all, his most important weapon, the aura of a knight, was not on him, and the armor of vengeance, that originally gave him terrifying power, had been broken along with his extinguished revenge heart. Hikari's combat power dropped by more than half. Facing such a fierce Bimonston, Hikari was beaten back step by step. Finally, Bimonston seized the opportunity and bombarded Hikari with several shooting light bullets in a row, making him retreat continuously. The injuries he had suffered when fighting Boggaru on Earth and helping Mebius in the battle had not yet healed, and this was even worse. Hikari was beaten so hard that he couldn't raise his head for a while. Bimonston screamed in victory and was about to rush over to kill Hikari. At this moment, a red light fell and formed a red ball space. In a space composed of red light, Hikari looked at the person who saved him. Zoffy, you are not a member of the Space Guard. Why do you want to fight to this extent? Do you want to give away the life given by the Silver Cross Army Commander, Mother of Ultra, in vain? If you lose your life, you will never. Zoffy expressed his dissatisfaction with Hikaru's behavior of fighting desperately without cherishing his current life, and said with a bit of blame, I have always wanted to ask. Bruce Wayne couldn't help but said, are there any limitations to your resurrection technology? You can't resurrect indefinitely. There are indeed limitations. The most direct one is that we are not sure whether the life solidification technology can successfully resurrect the user. Just like the surgery on Earth, there is a success rate. If it fails, then you really can't wake up. I see. Diana Prince, there is a certain chance of resurrection, which is already a blessing for a soldier. Fighting to the death is a glorious thing. If you can be resurrected, it is double the joy. Ace, I don't really agree with your idea. It may be glorious to die in order to protect life, but it is definitely not something to be happy about, because there are more people who love you who will feel pain. When we train new soldiers, we always remind them to think about the people who love them when they fight. Ace, fighting with the determination to die, and fighting with the idea that it doesn't matter if you die, are two different things. Peter looked at this sentence, and felt that it was a little familiar. Have I seen this sentence somewhere? I'm writing the story of Zamshar. You will have something new to see in a few days. Chapter 375 Aguang's famous scene, lifting a B-Bad with one hand. I'm just a scientist. The video continues. I know. Have you forgotten? What happened to the person you merged with? Zoffy reminded him, you are able to live now thanks to his will. Don't think you live alone. All creatures in this world survive by supporting each other. Yes, I don't live alone. After hearing Zoffy's words, Hikari fell into deep thought. The reason why he was able to come back to life was also due to Sarazora's will. He has now merged with the other person's soul. Since he has received the favor of humans, he should fight for humans. For example, Mebius was able to challenge such a fierce battle because he was moved by the pure heart of humans, so he fought to protect the Earth and humans. He thought of the intelligent life on the planet Arbo again. He originally hoped to live with them forever, but unfortunately, the demon Bogaru appeared. He did not protect them well. He watched them being killed in front of him, and he was heartbroken. Those lives on the planet Arbo will never come back, but there are still lives that can be protected in this world. Humanity. I will fight to protect humanity. I will never fall in such a place. A strong belief rose in Hikari's heart, and this strong belief became an unparalleled force that filled his body and made him cheer up again. I told you long ago that you are not alone. Seeing Hikari cheer up again, Zoffy said with relief, and he was happy for Hikari from the bottom of his heart. Then the red light disappeared, and Hikari and Zoffy stood side by side. At this time, Hikari's injuries had completely recovered, and he was full of fighting spirit again. Let's go together, Hikari. The two of them were full of fighting spirit and rushed towards Bimunston together. Two old men over 20,000 years old bullied a Bimunston. Is this okay? This is good. The terrifying aura field instantly crushed Bimunston, and even the earth was shaken by the explosion of the aura field, and the dust flew up. Bimunston was beaten and screamed. Knowing that it was absolutely impossible to defeat these two people, Bimunston seized an opportunity and turned around and ran. Chase. Seeing this, Hikari immediately chased after him. Bimunston flapped his wings and wanted to fly away, but Hikari jumped up and pulled him down. He rode on his back and punched him like raindrops, making Bimunston scream continuously. After hitting him from the back, he turned him over and hit his abdomen, but Hikari didn't pay attention and hit the energy absorber on the opponent's abdomen with a fierce punch. Half of Hikari's arm was directly sunk into it, and he couldn't pull it out, even if he tried his best. Now Bimunston desperately began to absorb the energy in Hikari's body, and he also made a happy cry. At this moment, Zoffy from Omo on the side, kicked Bimunston away with a flying kick, and saved Hikari again, encouraging him, don't be discouraged, this life is not yours alone. Fight to the last moment, as an Ultraman. Hikari was greatly encouraged, and rushed up alone, using the rich combat experience he had accumulated as a sword to beat Bimunsten without any ability to fight back, and a whip kick made Bimunsten retreat repeatedly. At this time, Hikari seized an opportunity, lifted up Bimunsten, who was twice as big as him and weighed 61,000 tons, with one hand, and threw him out fiercely. Bimunsten crashed into a mountain and even crushed several hilltops. It took a long time before he climbed up dizzy. Zoffy, damn, Hikari, the scientist, seems to be a little more capable than I expected, but at this time, Hikari had already gathered all the strength in his body, opened his hands, formed a double palm up and down posture, and suddenly shot out a blue high heat ray, carrying unparalleled power to bombard Bimunsten, who had just stood up, hitting him and making him retreat continuously, making a shrill cry. This is Ikari's heat load ray, which is very lethal, but he had the more useful night breath and night ray before, so he didn't use it often. The blue heat load ray output lasted for a full 10 seconds, and in the end Bimunsten was like drunk, shaking left and right twice, and finally couldn't get up. Boom. Hikari, this thing is much more powerful than the night ray. Just like that, Bimunsten turned into a gorgeous firework. The Kingdom of Light. Jack wanted to curse and exit the live broadcast room. Is this Bimunsten? Is this a scientist? Exclamation mark. You tell me this is the blue tribe who is not good at fighting? Exclamation mark. I was almost beaten to death by Bimunsten when I fought him. I asked the sun to borrow power, but the sun refused to give it to me. If Taro hadn't come and given me the super bracelet, I would have returned to the Kingdom of Light to read the resurrection bar. Wait, the super bracelet and life solidification technology seem to be invented by Hikari. That's fine. Tregia looked at the screen and saw Bimunsten, who was beaten by Jack, who didn't have a super bracelet, and finally used the light skill to kill Bimunsten, who was almost immune to light skills. You know, Jack also relied on the super bracelet to dismember Bimunsten instead of defeating it with light skills. Commander Hikari has found his light in the future. What about me? Also, why can Commander Hikari also have such a powerful power, but I'm a waste who can't even pass the light test of the space guard? I'm unwilling to accept it. Why? That's right. Science. The power of science. Commander Hikari said that the power of science is equally powerful. Also, the human who got the light of an Ultraman, yes, his name is Peter. He said that physical strength does not necessarily mean inner strength. As long as the heart is strong enough, it is the real strength. Inner strength. My heart is not strong enough, so I can't get strong power. Inner strength. Inner strength. Peter said that the source of his power is the people he wants to protect. His Aunt May, the girl he likes, his city, his world, and the Commander Hikari on the screen wants to protect humans. Protect the humans who saved him. He wants to protect those lives that can be protected. But I have read the Earth files in the archives. The Earthlings are not a peaceful race. 7 even eliminated the non-Gmall people for the sake of the Earthlings. In the story of Maximum in the parallel universe, it was mentioned that there was a red giant who was exiled to the end of the universe. Maybe this is the 7 who helped humans eliminate the non-Gmall people in the other world. What qualifications do we have to protect others? Or in other words, what qualifications do we have to decide who should be protected and who should be destroyed? Exclamation mark. Maybe the Dark Forest is the norm in the universe, and the Kingdom of Light is relying on its powerful power to distort the direction of the universe. No, the Kingdom of Light is not wrong. If the Dark Forest is the norm in the universe, then it just shows that there are no rules in the universe. Since there are no rules, then what the Kingdom of Light wants to do is of course its own business. Why can the Kingdom of Light be the savior? Why can Ultraman save mankind? Because they are strong enough. Strength, it's all because of strength. It doesn't matter whether the super bracelet is Jack's family heirloom. Anyway, a scientist will definitely be able to copy it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.